Friday the 13th slate. I'm going to go the other way and try to pivot into that a little more. Me and the kids of Camp Crystal Lake, we're going to both try to make Friday the 13th better for all of us. I'm Chris Spags, joined by my not regular pal, but a guy who I enjoy watching every day, and hopefully you will too. Ship my money, Adam Scher. How you doing, Adam?
Doing good, man. Enjoying Friday, getting ready for football this weekend, but excited that we actually have a baseball slate with some decent pitching on it too. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's been a tough week for pitching, but thankfully we do have some guys to look at today. And of course, we will talk about them. One thing we will also talk about is the values that are going on in Yahoo right now. You should go click the link in the Spotlight Stacks article for the day from EMAC. There's going to be a link in there. It'll take you to Yahoo, or you just go straight to Yahoo yourself. Check out their daily fantasy offerings. Use the promo code AWESEMO, AWESEMO, for $30 free on your deposit. You just got to deposit some money in there. You'll get that right back in the form of YSRPs. And they're doing a big contest for the NFL's Week 2 here. Their $1 million baller, $1 million in no management fees in their contest, $100K to first, and $150 entry max, which are going to be hand entered. So you're honestly going to probably find some dead money in there. But more than that, you're going to find a good chance at winning for yourself. Just $20 to enter on there. So go check it out right now. Adam, how are you feeling about the NFL here? I know you do play a little bit, even though you're not doing our shows. How are you feeling going into Week 2?
Feeling pretty good. Week 1 went really well for me because I had a good finish on Yahoo. So that helped out a lot. So actually pretty excited going into Week 2.
Are you going to be hand entering 150 lineups this week?
Yes, I will.
Oh, that is commitment. How deep are you in already?
0.
Okay. Oh, so you're putting it all to last minute like a kid in college.
Yeah, I'll be up all night Saturday.
Well, go check it out. That's going to be a lot of people doing that all night Saturday or all day Sunday morning. So go check out the Yahoo $1 million ball right now, 150 max. And there's going to be some ways to win money there. So go check it out. All right, let's go game by game here, Adam, because we got a bunch to get through here in this hour. And let's lead it off with Atlanta, who's getting 3.8 implied runs in a game against Washington. Who's getting 4.7, a matchup between Max Scherzer, who does look pretty good, does look like he'll be a bit owned, going against Mike Soroka, who will not be owned at all. How are you feeling about Scherzer here? And I guess any Soroka interest at all for you?
I think Scherzer's kind of interesting because we're getting him at a little bit of a discount. Seems like he's back to full strength. He threw 98 pitches in his last start. He threw 90 in the one before that. It's not a great matchup against the Braves, especially because you do have Nick Markakis back in the lineup, which gives you not only an above average hitter against right-handed pitching from the left side, but about a 12% strikeout percentage. So that makes it tougher for Scherzer, but he's a little bit cheaper than Cole. So in some lineups where you can't quite get to Cole, Scherzer's, really not a bad consolation prize. He's still capable of dominating any offense. So secondary option for me at the top, but I'm getting the sum of him. In the DraftKings crunch I did right before the show, I got around 8 or 9%. We have him projected for 24% right now. So I think I'll be under the field, but I'll have a little bit. On the other side, no real interest in Soroka. Just the price range that I'm not really getting to from a roster construction standpoint. And then also a pitcher that I think is just a better real life pitcher and more of a run prevention guy than a DFS, strikeout guy. So not getting to him.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. And Scherzer, I think, is a little bit interesting because, he's a pivot worth having the ownership for. I'm with you on that. 24% seems a little high on DK, but coming in under that, that he's pitching deep into games. He's pitching almost 7 innings per start. And hopefully, as you mentioned, with the pitch count coming up a bit, he's a little more trustworthy. But we'll talk more about Garrett Cole, but I think we're probably going to have the same sentiment here. We're based on a projection level. It's hard to go from Cole to Scherzer because there's a really big discrepancy there. And the team differential, too. Atlanta, just a tough power team. And Kansas City, not so much. Let's talk about the hitting here. We got some bats here, and theoretically, Atlanta could be leveraged against Scherzer. Not a guy who you want to target against too often, but he has had some struggles with power, especially versus lefties, and you have some competent hitting lefties in here. Any interest at all in Atlanta as a leverage stack?
Not really, just because there are so many good offenses on this slate. And with there being 13 games, it's not like they can all be highly owned. So I think that the issue you'd run into is that you're playing an Atlanta stack that has pretty similar ownership to some other higher probability spots. Their salaries are affordable, and they do get to face a terrible bullpen if they were to get to Scherzer early. Like, that's where their upside would come from. But it's just still a low probability spot, I think. Like Freeman's affordable at 4,500, but you just have so many good first basemen that the opportunity cost is still high. He doesn't really stick out. The same thing kind of goes for Albies. And then, Acuna in the outfield is the outfield stacked. Their base is stacked for Donaldson. So I just think the opportunity cost, in addition to just the ridiculously tough matchup against Scherzer, keeps me off of it.
Yeah, and Scherzer not giving up much on the year with just a 2.9 xFIP, a 1 whip, and not giving up 2.3% on run rate too, so that's under league average. So not much in the way of power there, and it's really just straight leverage. How about Washington though? Because I know you've been feeling them a lot this week. You talked about it in a couple of shows with Alex, and also I think maybe yesterday. But how are you feeling about Washington in this spot against Soroka, a guy who does, as you mentioned, he's a good real-life pitcher, does keep the ball down pretty well with just a 25% fly ball rate. So any interest at all in Washington here in a good hitting park?
As of right now, I'm not getting there just again because there are so many other teams on the slate. Looking at the top stack tool for DraftKings, we have them being underowned, but we still only have them with a 2% chance of being the top stack on the slate. And there are just so many of the higher probability stacks that are also coming in underowned right now that I'm not getting to them. It wouldn't be surprising if ownership changes a little bit and some of these teams at the top start to get more, then maybe I get a little bit more Washington. Like yesterday, I ended up getting to a lot of them, even though at this time, this time yesterday, I wasn't expecting to. Ownership just kind of changed. They're a high upside team, but with Soroka, you are talking about a pitcher with a very good ground ball percentage. He has one of the best barrels per batted ball percentages among qualified starters this year. He's just really good at limiting damage, and there are a lot of pitchers on the slate that are not. So I would rather attack those guys.
Yeah, just a 5% barrel ball rate for Soroka. So yeah, that does check out. It'd be tough for them to get that production you'd want to see. Let's keep it moving. We got a Yankees team getting 5.9 implied runs against Anthony Kay, a guy who's had a couple of stints this year in which he's looked decent, but I'm sure you'll have more details on him and why he's probably garbage relative to his sample size so far in the majors. And on the other side, Masahiro Tanaka going against Toronto, getting 4.1 implied runs against him. A guy who projects decently, his price is down a bit, but he's been pretty poor on the year, at least relative to what we've grown to expect from over the last few years. I imagine I'm not going to have much interest here, though K's price, I guess, could be interesting maybe, but he doesn't project too well. How are you feeling about these pitching guys here?
Not really interested in the pitching. This is actually, according to ESPN Park Factors, the Rogers Center in Toronto has been the best park for home runs this year. So you have two offenses that have a pretty significant amount of power hitting in a good home run park. The Yankees are running out a watered down lineup. Encarnacion and Sanchez are both banged up. There's no Aaron Judge in the lineup either. So it's a less appealing Yankees lineup than we could have gotten, but that doesn't really make me want to get the Anthony Kay either, especially because he's not really cheap. He's 6,800 on DraftKings. You have a ton of pitchers cheaper than him that you can take a risk on that give you similar upside. So not interested there. And then with Tanaka, I would say that of the mid-range pitchers, he's probably my second favorite behind Adam Wainwright, but I don't really like either of them. I would just rather save that money and spend it on an extra bat or two. So this game is more about hitters for me than anything.
Yeah, that seems fair. And Tanaka's price, as you mentioned, Adam Wainwright is going to be a pivot there, but not much ownership expected for Tanaka, though, under 10%, and none expected for Anthony Kay, probably for those reasons you mentioned, where maybe he's worth a dice roll in the 4K range, but just under 7K on DraftKings, perhaps not so much. How about the bats here? Because we are going to have some pretty big ownership, it looks like, for Gleyber Torres and Luke Voit. And as you mentioned, Toronto's park has been really strong for home runs on the year. Roof is closed again there. How are you feeling about the Yankees hitters, which look like they'll be owned as one-offs and maybe a three-man, but not much besides that?
Yeah, I think that right now, the top stack tool, we have them with the third highest top stack percentage. We have them getting a little bit more ownership than they should. So in the crunch that I did before the show, what I was basically getting was in stacks that were already contrarian, I was getting to guys like Torres and Voit as one-offs because, obviously you don't need your whole lineup to be 2% owned. But I wasn't getting to a lot of full Yankee stacks. And I think the reason for that is just that without Sanchez, Encarnacion, or Judge in the lineup, on a slate where there are so many good hitters, you start to run into some kind of suboptimal plays in terms of opportunity costs. So right now, not getting to a lot of full Yankee stacks. That's one where if in our final ownership update, their percentages come down, then I would start to get to more. But right now, just not getting to a lot.
Yeah, that seems fair. And how about Toronto? Because they do have some pretty decent power bats in this lineup. They've steadily kind of improved throughout the year. And Tanaka has given up a 188 ISO over the last two seasons. So his numbers have taken a pretty big downswing in terms of the power he's allowing. How are you feeling about Toronto here?
Not great. I think it's an okay one-off spot because Tanaka has allowed 1.4 home runs per 9 this year. His strikeouts are also really down. So you're taking a pitcher who throughout his career has had home run issues and really good strikeout stuff, taking away the strikeout stuff and kind of just leaving the home run issues. So power guys like Guerrero, Tellez, Grichuk all make sense, but there's just so many good hitting spots on this slate that going after a team with a 4.2 implied run total against a competent pitcher in Tanaka, against a competent group of relievers from the Yankees, isn't really at the top of my list, especially because their price tags are pretty obviously good values. So I think that you do see some ownership on those guys.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, they are reasonably priced overall, but the projections don't really back it out being them being worth too much exposure. So yeah, I could see it, though. I think you did admit Reese McGuire, who's had 80 at-bats versus a righty, and has a 280 ISO, which kind of shocked me. I didn't realize he was actually hitting well. Good for Reese McGuire. Good for him and his sister Lizzie. I think I'm rooting for both of them. Let's keep it going. Got the Dodgers heading into a game with the Mets. Dodgers getting 4 implied runs against Noah Syndergaard. Of course, the generally kind of overhyped, but he's still, at a reasonable price and reasonable ownership today, guy going against the Dodgers. And the Mets getting 3.5 implied runs against Clayton Kershaw. Kersshaw's been solid on the year, probably better than people realize, 27% K rate. I think Kershaw could be a little interesting, but the price he's kind of the third tier option. He's the baby bear to both Max Scherzer and Garrett Cole, price-wise and projection-wise. How are you feeling about the pitching here? And I guess, would you have any Kershaw if you are going to have some Cole and possibly some Scherzer?
Yeah, I'm actually getting to a lot of Kershaw. I was kind of surprised, but there are a couple things that I like here. For one, and we've talked about it a lot over the last month or so, but his strikeout numbers have really taken a tick up. If you go to Brooks Baseball or any other site and where you can see pitch movement, he's been getting more depth on his slider over the last couple of months. Since the start of July, he has a 33.2% strikeout percentage, 3.34 xFIP over 67 innings pitched. So I think that he gives you a higher strikeout upside than his overall season numbers point to. And then on top of that, the Mets are running out a pretty watered down lineup. No Pete Alonso in there, and they have Cano, they have Conforto, they have McNeil from the left side. Plus, you have Syndergaard with like a 70% strikeout percentage. They have some guys that can hit still, Rosario, Davis, McNeil, Ramos. None of these guys are easy outs, but I just think Kershaw is a really good pitcher, and you're getting him at a pretty sizable price discount. 10-8 on DraftKings puts him $600 lower than Scherzer and $1,400 less than Cole. He's $51 on Yahoo, so he's, I think, $13 less than Cole and $6 or $7 less than Scherzer. On FanDuel, he's a little bit more expensive than Scherzer, so probably least appealing there. But we don't have him projected for a lot of ownership right now either. We have Scherzer at about 24% on DraftKings. We have Kershaw at 14%. So if that's the case, I would rather just be getting overweight on Kershaw at the expense of Scherzer.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And yeah, I think, you go back to the longer term sample size for Kershaw. He was a 25.5% K guy going back to the beginning of last year. As you mentioned, those recent numbers have helped him take a jump to 27%. And, he's not quite in that tier in terms of a strikeout guy as Scherzer or Cole, but that discount, I think, balances it out. And as you mentioned, the Mets lineup here, there's one guy over 200 ISO and Wilson Ramos versus left-hand pitching. Everybody else not the best in terms of power bats. How about Syndergaard? Because his price is down a bit. He's now finally not being priced like Jacob deGrom on the regular. And he's still been decent on the year, not an elite guy, not in that deGrom tier, but a 24% K rate, a 1.2 whip, 3.9 xFIP. Things have been looking good. A low barrel ball rate too, which you mentioned earlier as being an important stat. How are you feeling about him going against the Dodgers?
Yahoo specific for me, I think. He's only $40 there. And if you look at the price of guys around him, there's just nobody that's as good as Syndergaard in terms of talent. It's a brutal matchup against the Dodgers. Not a lot of strikeouts in the lineup. Really, really good team offensively. Max Muncy's back. So you don't feel confident in it, but he does have the third best barrels per batted ball percentage among all qualified starters this year at 4.8%. And he is averaging 6.25 innings per start this year. So you have all that going for him, and he's only $40. So I think he's a good play on Yahoo. At 9,400 on DraftKings, I'm not getting there. And on FanDuel, only rostering one pitcher, I don't really see it. But Yahoo specifically, I think he's a good play.
So I guess given that the Dodgers bats are powerful here, they're going with a really lefty-heavy approach there with the first 5 guys all lefty. So I guess that's what we should be expecting with Max Muncy back. How are you feeling about them going against Syndergaard? It's not going to be a great leverage play, but it could be potentially one.
They're never a team that I'm upset if I get to in tournaments at low ownership just because they're so good. That being said, right now I'm not getting there. There's just enough lower owned stacks that I like a little bit more that I think are in better spots. But it's still the Dodgers. So if you want to play the Dodgers in a top heavy tournament, then go for it.
And not much of the way of the Mets for you either?
No.
Okay. Yeah, that seems fair. Let's keep it going here. We got Baltimore heading into a game with Detroit in Detroit, which Baltimore is getting 4.6 implied runs, Detroit getting 4.9, and a battle between the equally illustrious Jordan Zimmermann and Aaron Brooks. These guys are giving up pretty big power. These guys are not good, but they do well. They're priced to play in the shit my money style of tournament play. So how are you feeling about Aaron Brooks and Jordan Zimmermann as your cheap pitching crap dumpster diving options for the day?
Yeah, I'm getting the sum of both.
I don't want to call you predictable, but it is hilarious that
I'm not thrilled with it. But Aaron Brooks is $4,300 on DraftKings, and while he's not good, he's better than the other pitchers in that price range. Like if you compare him to Jordan Zimmermann, who's $400 more, he has a higher strikeout percentage. He has a lower Sierra. If you compare him to Dylan Covey, it's the same thing. So I think out of the grouping there, he's the best of the three, and he has the best matchup going against the Tigers. They still have a 4.9 implied run total. It's not a safe spot. It could very easily go south very quickly. But with the amount of bats on this slate, and with having Garrett Cole and then to a lesser extent Scherzer and Kershaw at the top to pay for, I just think that you get a lot of upside by using cheap pitching, and Brooks at basically the minimum salary, specifically on DraftKings, because I don't think it's even really necessary on Yahoo. Normally it's easier to make lineups there. So it's more of a DraftKings specific play, but I'm fine rolling the dice on him. And then Jordan Zimmerman, the same thing. Like, I have less Zimmerman than Brooks. Right now we have Zimmerman projected for about 9% ownership, and that's about where I have him on DraftKings. It is a watered down Orioles lineup. I think it's still a better lineup than the Tigers lineup, but you don't have Anthony Santander in the lineup. So, that's a step back. It's kind of an ugly lineup. So I don't have any amount of confidence in Zimmerman, but I'm fine rolling him out, around 10% of the time here.
Yeah, and you're right about the Detroit lineup too. I mean, this lineup that they have out there today, the best power hitter in there is Kristen Stewart with a 180 ISO versus right-hand pitching. And then they have nobody over a 96 WRC plus versus righties. So that is, you are going to go to Aaron Brooks. There's a lot of logic going to them just in terms of pure impotence for Detroit, despite that kind of high run total for them. And Baltimore on the other side, kind of the same thing as you mentioned here. Not a lot of power. You have Steve Wilkerson and Trey Mancini, the only guys over 200 ISO. Everybody else here not looking the best. But despite that, though, if we are going to have ownership on these pitchers, the hitting could be a bit interesting. And it actually looks like Baltimore is going to have some ownership, hilariously. How are you feeling about the hitters for Baltimore and for Detroit?
I was pretty high on Baltimore this morning when I did the show with Josh, because I was expecting a different looking lineup than we're getting. Right now, we're getting enough ownership on Baltimore to where I'm not getting them. I think Jonathan VR is a really good play. I think Mancini and Dwight Smith are good plays. Trumbo's a good play. It's just that when you start to get ownership on a team like Baltimore or like Detroit, who I think could also get ownership because they're so cheap, the issue you run into is that they're just not very good. Detroit, obviously, even worse than Baltimore, but there's 26 offenses on the slate, and you need them to be at least one of the higher scoring teams. So the probability of that just is naturally low because they're not very good, and you're getting a lot of ownership because they're so cheap and they're clearly good value options. It kind of just doesn't make sense when you're trying to take down a top heavy tournament. So I wouldn't mind either team if they were getting no ownership, especially the Orioles, because I do think that they have some power. VR gives you a nice stolen base plus home run threat, but I just think there's going to be enough ownership here where I can just get to better hitters.
Yeah, and as you mentioned on the top stacks tool, I guess where it's to dovetail with what you're mentioning, they are both significantly overowned according to their probability of being a top stack, according to Osmo's top stacks tool, which of course you get with an Osmo Plus membership. So go right now to osmo.com/join. Use that promo code Deeper Dive for half off your first month, or check out our new weekly packages. We've got packages as low as $3.95 a week on there. Let's go find a package that fits for you at osmo.com/join. But yeah, they are significantly overowned. Actually, they look to be the most overowned on the slate. Besides the team we'll talk about in a little bit, but actually seems like they deserve their ownership. So yeah, not a great spot. You don't want to be on an overowned Baltimore or Detroit hitting side, I would presume.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a situation, and Alex mentions it a lot when he does the shows, where you can make really high projected lineups by stacking one of these teams with, Garrett Cole plus, I don't know, another good pitcher, and, or good one-offs around them. But when everyone's doing the same thing, like everyone that stacks these teams is doing the same thing, and they're teams that are just below average offensively, your range of outcomes is kind of not favorable to being in that situation.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And the value plays, of course, are going to come up a lot in optimizers too, and that's certainly going to bump these guys up as people are starting to make their crunches, even with our projections at osmo.com. Let's keep it going here. We got Minnesota in a game with Cleveland. Minnesota getting 4.9 implied runs against Aaron Savale. I don't know where the fuck. Aaron Savale, who's been good with a 1.1 whip and on the year, but still a guy, not great strikeout stuff in his limited major league sample time. And also Cleveland going against Jake Odorizzi, who has been pretty good, but kind of regressed down the year a bit. Also some possible rain here, though I'm not sure it's actually a concern, but that is something to consider, I guess, that being flagged on a few of the sites. How are you feeling about the pitching here? Because it looks like neither guy's going to be owned at all. Both guys projected for under 1% ownership.
Yeah, I'm not on the pitching. They're both just in a price range that I'm not getting to from a roster construction standpoint, and neither of them grade out as anything special to where I would want to be altering what I think is the optimal roster construction. It's a tough matchup for both guys. We're still waiting on a Minnesota lineup. There are several questionable players there, so there is a chance that Aaron Savale gets a watered-down Twins lineup. But the problem is that even when you do get a watered-down Twins lineup, it's normally it's less productive hitters, but still guys that don't really strike out normally. So it's still not that appealing of a spot. And then for Odorizzi, he's better against lefties than righties, but the lefties in this Cleveland lineup are still good, still tough to strike out. I think it's a dangerous spot against guys like Mercado, Puig, and Reyes. The wind also is blowing out the center at 10 to 15 miles per hour, so maybe a little bit of a bump to home run power too. So I'm not on the pitchers here. I'm actually more excited about the hitters.
So yeah, let's talk about the hitting there, because it does seem like Savali, just looking at his numbers, he seems like a guy who's due to regress in power, just giving up a 126 ISO, but the other numbers don't seem like they would back that up. And I know Odorizzi, as you mentioned, he has struggled heavily with power, giving up a 186 ISO to the left-handed hitters going back over the last 2 years. So there are some good power hitting options. Let's talk about the Twins first, because they are the power team du jour of the year, one of the better ones. How are you feeling about them going against Savali?
Yeah, so I mean, still waiting on that lineup, like I had said, and there's a chance that I lose interest pretty quickly. But if you get a full strength lineup and you have Kepler, Polanco, Sano, Rosario, Cruz, you're just getting so much power at low ownership because they have a 5.1 implied run total. That's fine, but it's not one of the highest on the slate. But we know that they have as much power as anyone. Those guys are all pretty reasonably priced, some more than others. Eddie Rosario at 4,400 really stands out on DraftKings as a really good value option. On Yahoo, where'd it go? On Yahoo, he's $13, so a really good value there as well. Nelson Cruz is only 20 on Yahoo, so that stands out. And they're not projected for a lot of ownership either. So I don't think Savali is a bad pitcher, but I don't mind, kind of just betting on the Twins' power in tournaments at low ownership. It's kind of like what I was saying about the Dodgers, except for I think that facing Aaron Savali is a more favorable spot than facing Noah Syndergaard. And if neither one's going to get ownership, I would just rather go here. And then on the other side for Cleveland, I really like Puig. I really like Reyes. Two affordable right-handed power bats. Odorizzi throughout his career has struggled more with right-handed power than left-handed power. So far this year, a 129 ISO to lefties, but a 186 expected ISO. And that goes with what he's basically done for his entire career. So I like both of those guys as home run picks. I think that, if you're filling out a stack with guys like Santana and Lindor and Kipnis, you're obviously still perfectly fine. So neither of these offenses expected to be very highly owned, but I expect to be over the field on both.
Yeah, it makes sense, especially with the amount of switch hitters here and some lefties in there. I mean, guys like Kipnis, who's a decent value play, and Jake Bauers, too, dual position eligibility, who can also hit from that left side, which is giving Odorizzi trouble. There could be some value here to unearth with Cleveland, and not much ownership expected for anybody. The highest owned guy looks like on DraftKings, at least, can be Yasiel Puig at just 5%. So not a stack that'll have much volume on him. Let's keep it going here. We got Oakland, who's been a hot-hitting team on the week, at least, getting one of the higher implied totals of the slate, about as high as Coors, getting 6.3 implied runs against Brock Burke. And he's going on the other side, going against Texas, getting 4.7 implied runs against Chris Bassett, a guy who's been serviceable on the year, a low-barreled ball rate, not giving up a ton of power, but it is going to be over 90 degrees in Texas today, so that's certainly going to help out the hitters and make it tough on these pitchers. But any interest at all in Bassett or Burke?
Not in the pitching, though.
Okay. How about the hitting then? Let's talk about Oakland first, because they are going to be really chalky, it looks like, for Chris Davis in particular, a guy who's kind of hit the rejuvenation machine down the stretch, and he is very value priced across the industry. There are some very chalky three-man stacks in Oakland, it looks like, but how are you feeling about him?
Yeah, they're projected for a ton of ownership, but I'm still getting to a lot right now, which kind of surprised me, but it probably just means that I'm getting more contrarian pitchers there. Like maybe I have like a Kershaw Brooks pairing or something like that with an Oakland stack, or more contrarian one-offs. I think that they're a really good combination of value and upside, whereas we talked with teams like Baltimore and Detroit about their good values, but they lack the ability to actually hit well. That's not really the case for Oakland. You have so much power with guys like Davis and Chapman and Kana and potentially Pinder or Semien or whoever, even Matt Olson, lefty-lefty matchup, but tons of power for him. He's that you could use to make a contrarian lineup. For example, we have him at 1% ownership on DraftKings right now. If you stack Oakland and play him over like Pinder or something like that, you're contrarian right there, and you can kind of do whatever you want after that. So I think that they're in a really good spot, and I am fine rostering a lot of them, even though some of them are popular.
Are you okay? I mean, I guess you're probably going to be okay with it, and it is a sort of pay up to be contrarian spot, but does it feel right to you to be paying $5,400 on DK for Olson and Marcus Semien, given those guys? I mean, Olson certainly has the power, but Semien, actually, no, Olson really his power has been down a little bit, at least versus lefties. I don't know. That seems like really high price tags for these two guys in particular.
They are, and I think that maybe it keeps the ownership down a bit. In the crunch that I did before the show, I was getting right around, we have Semien right now projected at 7% ownership on DraftKings. I got right around there, but then I just got a bunch of Matt Olson because he's projected for like 1% ownership and he's one of the best hitters in the lineup. And also shortstop today, you have Machado, you have Story, you have Torres, you have Bregman, you have Polanco potentially. So shortstop's like really stacked, whereas first base, it's deep, but it's not as stacked. It's more just, Hosmer, potentially Murphy, CJ Cron, Voit. So I think that getting to Olsen in tournaments is actually preferable to getting to Semien if you only had to pick one.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. How about the Texas hitters here? Because Bassett's getting a pretty big park downgrade. And even though he's been decent on the air, 90-degree heat will turn a lot of things around for the opponents going against him. How are you feeling about the Texas hitters, and will you have any exposure?
Yeah, really interested in Texas. They're looking like they aren't going to get much ownership. Chris Bassett is fine, and Texas as an offense isn't great. But this time of year, when the weather starts to cool in a lot of parks, it becomes similar to the beginning of the season where you get more of an advantage playing guys in Texas because it's still hot and the ball's still going to fly there. They're also very affordable with Shin-Soo Choo, Andrus, Calhouns, Nick Solak are all cheap. Rougned Odor is reasonably priced as well. And none of these guys are really projected for much ownership right now. If you look at their projected ownership for DraftKings, there's six athletics projected for more ownership than the top owned Ranger, which is Choo at like 7%. So I just think that it's a really high upside ballpark and they're not getting enough ownership.
Yeah, it seems fair. Do we think Solak keeps this up? Because he's been hitting pretty well. I mean, the power has kind of leveled out a little bit, but a 163 WRC plus in a limited sample size versus righties. And I don't recall, I honestly didn't look that deeply into it, but I don't recall him projecting to be as good as he's been. How are we feeling about Nick Solak? Because he's a guy who's not going to be too owned and he's pretty cheap.
Yeah, I don't expect him to keep up what he's been doing, but he is, at least Fangraphs has him as the Rangers' top prospect. They have him at like 110 overall. He has 50 grade raw power, 60 grade speed. Steamer projects him for a 97 WRC plus, and he's 24 years old. So he projects as at least an average guy going forward, and he's cheap enough hitting in the middle of this order to where, while I don't expect him to keep doing what he's doing, I think that he's still a perfectly fine option.
Yeah. And especially in that weather, as you mentioned, and as we've talked about here, it's a hot day here, and the hot days are getting fewer and far between as the summer kind of ends across the East Coast and across the country. So you got to kind of take advantage of the heat where you can get it. And this is one spot where it certainly will have some heat in terms of the weather in the game. Let's keep it going here. We got Houston getting 5.9 implied runs against Danny Duffy, who is also not getting any ownership and not looking too good from a projection basis, but he's cheap. So maybe that'll stir up some interest in your heart. And Kansas City on the other side, I think probably you'll have slightly more interest in Garrett Cole, getting 3.1 implied runs against him. Dude's been a beast on year with a 39.4% carry to 2.5 xFIP. I mean, everything for him. He seems like he's going to be a Cy Young winner potentially. Assuming people care about the same things we care about. How are you feeling about the pitching here, and how much more Danny Duffy than Garrett Cole will you have?
Yeah, all in on Danny Duffy and just fade Cole. No, Cole right now is my highest owned pitcher on the slate, which is actually surprising to me because normally that just doesn't happen to expensive pitchers as much. Like I thought that I would get more Tyler Beede, for example, but right now he's my highest owned pitcher. I have like 45 to 50% on DraftKings. It's not that tough to get to him because of how many cheap arms there are that you can pair him with. It's a really good spot here against Kansas City. They have plenty of strikeouts in their lineup. 4 lefties in there. He has a 42% strikeout percentage against lefties, about 36.5% against righties. You have Ryan McBroom in the lineup, who projects for a 25% strikeout percentage, hitting 6th. O'Hearn's in the lineup. Bubba Starling strikes out a lot. Vioria strikes out a lot. There's really no reason for me not to like Garrett Cole here.
Yeah, there are some decent hitters, and this team does seem to be turning it around for seemingly no reason down the stretch. But you got Mondesi back in there who's been hitting well. Soler had a couple home runs the other day. These guys have turned it around. Would there be any interest at all going against Cole even a little bit? They don't project well, but in terms of pure leverage, they are probably the biggest leverage stack on the slate.
Yeah, I don't see it. Like it wouldn't be surprising if one of these guys got to him for a home run. He does give up some power, but it's just really unlikely for this entire stack to come through enough to win you a slate. They do have, if you go back to last season and look at their numbers against right-handed pitching, Soler, O'Hearn, Dozier, Merrifield, Mondesi, Gordon, all have a WRC plus over 100. So it's not like they're bad hitters, but you also go and, Soler 26% strikeout percentage, O'Hearn's at 23.2, Dozier 26.1, Merrifield's only at 16.5, Gordon's at 18.1, Mondesi's at 29.3. So really, outside of Merrifield and Gordon, you're just getting strikeouts up and down this lineup, and I think it's pretty unlikely that they string together enough base runners to really, make a dent in Cole, even if one guy gets into him.
Yeah, I mean, 7 guys above league average in strikeout rate, which is certainly about as good of a spot as Garrett Cole can find here, even if the Kansas City Royals have turned it around. How about Houston's bats here going against Danny Duffy, a guy who's not going to be owned and hasn't been that good on the year? I mean, he's been mediocre, I guess you could say, for him with a 5.2 xFIP, giving up a 174 ISO overall going back to last year, and that's certainly not a terrible, but not a great power number by any stretch. And Houston is now the best hitting team versus both-handed pitchers, both lefties and righties. They have a ton of power. And this lineup is about as good as you would expect. So how are you feeling about Houston bats?
I was getting to them as a top stack before the show. Their lineup has come out since, and it's a bit different than I was expecting. So I'm not sure if that will change. It's a little bit watered down. You don't have Robinson Chirinos behind the plate. You don't have Michael Brantley. I feel like someone else is missing too, and I can't figure it out. But you do still have Springer, Altuve, Bregman, Alvarez. Gurriel is fine. So right now we have them projected to be really underowned as a stack, and I think the reason for that is they're expensive enough where it's really difficult to get them with Garrett Cole. Like, they're more expensive than the Coors Field game is, so that should keep down ownership. But Duffy against righties this year really hasn't been impressive at all. You obviously have a lot of good right-handed power on Houston. He's only struck out 18.7% of righties with a 199 expected ISO allowed. You also have a weak bullpen behind them. So, I think there's good reason that Houston has an implied run total over 6. And right now as a stack, they're just not projected for a lot of aggregate ownership.
Kyle Tucker be a guy who's in the lineup today in the 7 hole? Would he be somebody you would want to avoid in stacks or put into stacks? It seems like he's turned it around in terms of getting power. I know he struggled a little bit when he first came into the majors, but his numbers overall are looking good, and he's hit lefties pretty well. He's only faced 23 of them. But he's had a 263 ISO in that very, very limited sample size and a 178 WRC plus. Would he be somebody you would feel, I guess, either way about putting in or avoiding in stacks, or how do you rank with Kyle Tucker?
He's the kind of guy that I would end up that normally I'll end up getting in stacks like this, because individually hitters like Springer, Altuve, Bregman probably will carry some ownership, especially Altuve and Bregman because of their positions. But if you just include someone like a Kyle Tucker, who I don't know exactly how much I'll get because he wasn't in my projected lineup, but just including a guy like that, it's the same thing as we talked about with the Oakland game with Matt Olson. It just automatically makes your stack contrarian, and it's not an ideal spot, lefty against Danny Duffy. He's a top prospect, but we don't really know what he's going to do in the major leagues. But he's just going to have so much lower ownership than other guys where he's still hitting 7th. He's still expected to be an above average hitter. He still gives you a lot of upside to win tournaments. So he's the kind of guy that I do end up getting to differentiate stacks quite a bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, let's keep going here. And our boy T McBee in the YouTube chat pointing out, always good for helping us get some likes. But yeah, guys, please hit that like button. Adam's giving out a ton of great information. I'm drinking a White Claw. We're both adding a lot of value to the stream. So go please hit that like button because it's Friday and we could use it. We could all use the good luck, the positive energy, because it is Friday the 13th. You a superstitious guy at all, Adam?
No, not really.
Okay, so Friday the 13th means nothing to you besides perhaps a horror movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, it's supposed to be an unlucky day, but I believe if we lean in on it, then we can turn it around. And that's what I'm hoping to do hoping you'll do for everybody out there, but only if they hit the like button. If you don't hit the like button, I wish you all bad luck and a hockey mask killer coming to your home. It's only fair, right? Let's keep it going. We got a Milwaukee team here going against Adam Wainwright, getting 3.7 implied runs. On the other side, St. Louis going against Adrian Hauser, getting 4.3 implied runs. And even though this park has been one of the better pitching parks on the year, these guys don't look like they're going to be owned. And Wainwright, I think if you put a little randomness on your crunches, he is a guy who you get a bit of. And he's getting a spot here against the Milwaukee team. He's struggled heavily versus lefties. He's given up a 185 ISO and a 1.8 whip over the last couple of years. But there's no Christian Yelich in there. So even though we have a couple guys who are troublesome, maybe a bit easier for him today. How are you feeling about Wainwright? Let's talk about him first.
Not getting to much. I got like 4% on DraftKings for a couple of reasons. For one, it's just like I'd mentioned before, from a roster construction standpoint, I think that the two best approaches are either an ace plus a really cheap guy or two really cheap guys and expensive hitters. And so both of those kind of skip over this range, and Wainwright doesn't project well enough for me to really forego that roster construction all that often. Also, Milwaukee's running out a very left-handed heavy lineup. They have 6 of the top 7 hitters are left-handed. Lorenzo Cain hitting cleanup is the only one that isn't. So while it is a bit of a watered down lineup without Yelich, without Braun, you do still have Grisham, Grandal, Moustakas at the top, Kane's not an easy out. Eric Thames has power. And against left-handed pitching this year, Wainwright only has a 19.2% strikeout percentage. He's allowed a 208 ISO. So it's just not a spot that is making me want to redo how I'm making lineups to get Wainwright in.
That's fair. How about Hauser on the other side? Because he's also a guy who's been popular at stretches when he's been this cheap. And he's going against a St. Louis team who couldn't get hits in Colorado. And now they are back home in their tougher hitting park. So how are you feeling about Hauser?
So I do want to mention, I forgot, Wainwright's $30 on Yahoo. That's totally different. That's you can play him there as your SP2. But at 7,800 on DraftKings, I'm not interested, or I'm not really interested. And at 7,600 on FanDuel, where you're only rostering one pitcher, I don't really want him. As far as Hauser goes, he's not projected for much ownership right now, which kind of surprised me. Maybe it comes up as the day goes on, but I think he's a decent option. There's not a ton of strikeout upside on the Cardinals, which is a problem, but he's only $5,700 on DraftKings, where, again, I'm looking to pay down at pitching quite a bit because of all the bats on the slate. 36 on Yahoo is kind of prohibitive. Like, he's more expensive than Wainwright by a lot. He's in the same ballpark as Noah Syndergaard, and obviously is not close to the same level of pitcher. 6,400 on FanDuel. There's guys down there that I would prefer as well. So it's pretty much DraftKings specific on Hauser, but he's a pretty decent pitcher. For the season, he struck out 24.8% of hitters. Some of that's out of the bullpen. As a starter, he's closer to 22%. But overall, a 3.96 Sierra, has a good ground ball percentage. So right now we have, like on DraftKings, he's 5,700 and Yusei Kikuchi is 5,400. And we have them projected for, I think, 20% ownership to Kikuchi and like 7 to Hauser. And basically I just ended up with that flipped where I have them projected similarly. So I just got Hauser around Kikuchi's projected ownership and then Kikuchi around Hauser's.
Yeah, that makes sense. And as you mentioned, Hauser has been keeping the ball down pretty well, just a 25% fly ball rate on the year. And he's in a park in which you're not going to get much power boost coming in St. Louis with the weather as it is right now. So yeah, I think Hauser's an interesting play. And I too, I'm kind of shocked he's not even 10% owned, but perhaps that'll change. Of course, the ownership projections do get more accurate as we get closer to the actual slate lock. And if you want to get them yourself, go to Osmo.com/join. Use the promo code DEEPERDIVE for half off your first month on any Osmo Plus package. How about the hitters here? Because as you mentioned, I guess, there are some good lefty hitters against Wainwright, and he has had some obvious struggles versus lefties. And that could be a spot you'd want to go to at not much ownership expected for any of these guys. How are you feeling about Milwaukee bats?
I didn't get to them, but the top of the order with Grisham, Grandal, and Moustakas, I think you could certainly make a strong argument for as a mini stack or one-offs. I right now am just going elsewhere, but I think those guys are all pretty solid values given the amount of upside and power that they give you. From the Cardinals side, just not really interested.
Just once bitten, twice shy, I think, with them this.
Yeah, I mean, and the game only has an 8 implied run total. It's not. Yeah, it doesn't project as a particularly appealing offensive spot.
Yeah, it seems like it could be a bit of a pitcher's duel between two pitchers who are not the best, but yeah, whatever. Good for them. Let's keep it moving. This is the main event here, sort of, at least on a team total standpoint. We got San Diego in a game at Coors against Colorado. San Diego getting 6.3 implied runs against Jeff Hoffman, a guy who, unlike some of the other guys earlier in this week, gives up a ton of power in terms of his ISO allowed. He's allowed a 248 ISO over the last 2 years. And he's also not been that 240. Yeah, no, sorry, 268. My bad. And also a 1.7 WHIP this year. So things have not looked good for him, and you really can't make an argument against them like you could have perhaps for Chi or Antonio Senzatella, because Hoffman also gives up a 13% barrel ball rate, which could be a problem even against a weak hitting San Diego team. And Colorado on the other side going against Joey Lucchesi, who's been pretty solid on the year, 23% K rate, 1.2 WHIP allowed, but still gives up some power to righties, and he's getting 2 of the better hitting righties against the lefty pitcher in the league with Trevor Story and Nolan Arenado. So how are you feeling about the pitching here? Are you going to have any Hoffman or Lucchesi?
I think I got to 0 Lucchesi, and I got to like 5 out of 150 Hoffman lineups. And so those could very easily disappear. This game is really, really interesting to me because both of these offenses suck. But Jeff Hoffman, also not good, and Joey Lucchesi pitching in Coors isn't someone you expect to have a very good game either. But there's so much good value, especially from the Colorado side. You have Garrett Hampson hitting second. He's $3,000 on DraftKings. He's, I'm assuming, $7 on Yahoo. Yeah, so he's $7 on Yahoo. Valleca $700 on Yahoo. Daza and Butera also $7 on Yahoo. So that's 4 minimum priced hitters in Coors Field from the Rockies on Yahoo. On FanDuel, Garrett Hampson hitting second is $2,900. Valleca, Daza, Butera are all 2,500. So really, really cheap there. And then same thing goes on DraftKings. So from an optimizer standpoint, I think you're going to really get a lot of ownership drawn to those guys. And then it's going to let you afford Story and Arenado as well. So all of those guys being in the lineup makes me think that when we update ownership projections, Colorado's projected ownership might really come up. So whereas I was getting a lot of them in my initial crunch, I might get less now because there's just less guys that we had projected for lower ownership. On the other side with San Diego, there's nobody that really stands out as a great play that you really, really would want outside of the middle of the order. Machado, of course, is a top projected and top value third baseman or shortstop. Hosmer is one of the top first base options, and Will Myers a top outfield option. But beyond that, Greg Garcia, Nick Martini, these guys aren't really that interesting, But then at the bottom, you have really good value again with Urias and with Hedges. So I'm just really interested in where the final ownership ends up here because I kind of just want to do the opposite of whatever the field's doing. I don't think that either team is good enough to where I get burned all that often if they're really popular and I fade them. But it's still a Coors Field game with questionable pitching. So if everyone else is going to look at it and say, I don't want to roster these guys, they aren't good hitters, then I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of ownership, it looks like, for both Machado and Hedges. And then it doesn't fall off a cliff, but it does fall precipitously for DraftKings ownership after those guys. And I don't know, Hoffman's just been bad, but he also does have a 23.2% K rate on the year. And he's going against a Padres team who was struck out 26.4% of the time versus righties. So maybe it's a spot where he could have use, but yeah, I think it's hard to it's hard to get away here. I guess, how do you feel about the ownership for the stacks overall? Because it does look right now, based on the top stacks tool, San Diego does have more ownership than their chance of being a top stack. So in that kind of situation, would you just try to take one-offs or mini stacks out of it to just try to get that production without committing all to all the ownership?
Yeah, as the ownership projections stand right now, I was getting to a lot of both of these teams. Just because they are two of the highest probabilities of being the top stack, and you're getting pretty good values. And because even though, so one thing I do that, so sometimes my lineups don't totally go with the top stack tool is I evaluate the ownership of each individual player. So while the Padres have a lot of a high aggregate ownership percentage, so much of that is going to Austin Hedges, Manny Machado, and Eric Hosmer and Martini, where if I just drop one of those guys and replace them with a lower owned hitter like Luis Urias or Garcia or Naylor or something like that, I'm getting a contrarian enough lineup that I'll still play them.
Interesting. Okay, that makes sense. And then I guess on Colorado, I know you talked about them a little bit here, but do Story and Arenado seem any extra special to you, given the fact I feel like they haven't faced a lot of lefty pitchers at home this year? I mean, that might just be anecdotal. And maybe I'm missing the slates where they are, but those guys have obliterated lefty pitching over the last 2 years. Both guys over a 288 ISO. Would you favor them any more, knowing how they've hit lefties at Coors?
Yeah, I think that they're two of the best plays on the slate. Neither one's really as expensive as they should be. They're expensive, but they're just not priced like they're in Coors in a favorable matchup. So I love both of those guys. I think that you can use them as one-offs in more contrarian stacks. You can obviously roster them in your Rocky stacks. They're two of my higher owned hitters.
Okay. All right. We got 4 games left. So let's keep it going, guys. Hit the like button so we can have all the energy to finish strong here as we can. Let's keep it going with Cincinnati in a matchup with Arizona. Both teams getting 4.3 implied runs. Mike Leake on one side, not going to have any ownership. Luis Castillo on the other side, kind of a forgotten man amongst all the top flight pitchers on the year, but he's got a 29% K rate. He's going to be a little bit owned, but not too owned. And he's going against an Arizona team who doesn't strike out a bunch, but isn't great versus right-hand pitching. Any interest in Castillo or Leake?
Not really. I have them sprinkled in basically the same as the field. We have Castillo on DraftKings projected for 6% ownership. I have 5 right now. We have Leake projected for 2% ownership. I have 1. So seems, they're guys that you can sprinkle in if you're playing 150 lineups. Castillo obviously has upside. He's a really good pitcher. And Arizona's a below average offense. The problem is just that they don't strike out a lot. And Castillo's probably not as good as guys like Kershaw, or definitely not as good as Scherzer or Cole. So still, not a priority at the top. And then Mike Leake, you're never excited about rostering him. And I don't project him as well as some guys down at the bottom, but it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world if he has a better game than, say, Tyler Beede and Yusei Kikuchi.
I thought it'd be funny if you're just like, Mike Leake, you're never excited about rostering him, and then you just stopped. I thought that was where you were going for a second. I was like, oh, all right, I like that. Just cut it short. Castillo also struggling versus lefty power, which I haven't seen because I feel like he's been on a lot more early slates, and because the West Coast timing, I don't often see Luis Castillo on slates, but even up at 203 ISO to lefties, even though the park is not going to help out at all. That could be an issue here when you have guys like Rojas, who's not great, but Rojas, Marte, and Escobar up top. That could be some problems for Castillo in this spot.
Are you looking since like last year?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. This year he's been a lot better.
Oh, I see. Okay, good. All right, I guess that makes sense.
He had some issues last year with his two-seam fastball command. He would just it would basically just leak right back over the middle of the plate and just run right into their swing and just get launched. He's throwing at 18.6% this year, but 166 ISO to lefties, 137 expected ISO.
Okay, so that's a big jump. Yeah, I have him at 203 in the rolling 2-year sample size, so that is a big difference. Any hitters against going to either Mike Leake or Arizona, I guess, because I feel like maybe you'll have some of these guys because there really isn't much ownership on them as stacks, and maybe theoretically there's some potential here going against either Leake or Castillo.
I'm not sure I have a single hitter from this game right now.
Okay, that's fair. It's not a great team total for either, and obviously the park too for Arizona has been pretty solid on the year with the roof closed, and the roof is going to be closed today, so there's probably not much benefit getting there.
It looks like I have one Joey Votto and one Josh Van Meter.
Okay, so you're supporting the Jays up top. I get that. Let's go to Tampa Bay here in a game at Anaheim. Tampa Bay getting 4.3 implied runs against Andrew Heaney, a guy who's looked good in terms of strikeouts. I'm still struggling with power as he has given up a 4.1% home run rate on the year, but a 29% K rate for him. So that's actually a pretty good number for him, and he's kind of held clean with that jump that he took earlier in the season. Now on the other side, the Angels are going against Charlie Morton, a guy who is also theoretically a pivot to the ownership of the higher priced pitchers in that Clayton Kershaw price tier, but he is still not projecting that well and going against an Angels team who historically hasn't struck out that much versus righties. So how are you feeling about Heaney and Morton here?
Morton will depend on the Angels lineup. It's still not out yet. Mike Trout's supposed to be back. If Trout's out, then it becomes a kind of appealing spot because obviously you don't have Mike Trout, but you also don't have Shohei Ohtani. Mm-hmm. So whoever replaces Trout in the lineup is obviously significantly worse. You'll get, if Upton's back, that's another guy that strikes out a lot. Morton's a really good pitcher. It's just a matter of what lineup you get from the Angels. On top of Trout, you have, Fletcher, Pujols, and Simmons, all with really low strikeout percentages. If one or two of those guys for some reason isn't in the lineup, the entire matchup changes. So right now, assuming that Trout's in, assuming that Fletcher, Pujols, and Simmons are all in, I'm not getting the Morton just because I hate the strikeout spot. And I can just go to Clayton Kershaw for basically the same price at low enough ownership. But if you get a really weak Angels lineup, that would really change the projection for Morton. As far as Heaney goes, good strikeout stuff, but just too expensive for me on this slate.
Yeah, and as you mentioned too, with Ohtani, he is out for the rest of the year because, the Angels, I guess, really aren't playing for anything. But just in case people weren't aware, he is out officially for the rest of the year. So hopefully he comes back strong. But how about the Tampa Bay hitters here? Because they are ones who maybe I could see you getting to because they have hit lefties pretty well overall, and they have reasonable prices. And the park also has been a decent home run park. Not as great as it looked earlier in the year, but it's leveled out a bit, but still a positive home run park. Any interest in Tampa Bay at all?
They look like pretty good values. But we also have them as a stack getting a little bit more ownership than they probably should. And I think that's because they're good values. Andrew Heaney has really good strikeout stuff. He has struggled with power a bit, like you said. To righties, he's allowed a 184 ISO, 171 expected ISO. So I think that Travis d'Arnaud hitting cleanup, Jesus Aguilar at first base at 3,100 on DraftKings, Garcia and Pham at the top, like they're really, really strong value plays. And you can mix and match those guys into lineups. You just want to be aware of kind of what the rest of your lineup looks like. If you're playing all those guys together, you probably don't also want like Garrett Cole plus Tyler Beede plus whatever other popular, one-offs around them.
Yeah, that makes sense. And no Angels interest overall for that stack, especially if Trout isn't in.
No, I mean, it's a pitcher I have a ton of respect for. It's obviously a really good bullpen behind him as well.
Yep. I'd agree with that. We got a game here between the White Sox and Yusei Kikuchi on that side, getting 4.4 implied runs against him. And he is going to be a bit owned at 20% projected ownership right now, but obviously that'll update as we get closer to lock. And Seattle getting 5.1 implied runs against Dylan Covey, who's been not as great as the hype would believe, but he has shown some signs of life recently. And he is also reasonably priced, and he has had some strikeout upside. So how are you feeling about the pitchers here? I believe you mentioned Kikuchi, so give me your thoughts on both.
I think they're both terrible. But they're both firmly in play, especially on DraftKings, Yahoo also. Certainly not on the one pitcher sites, but again, I think that making good lineups is just a little bit easier on Yahoo, so they're less of a necessity. It's less of a necessity to roster guys that you're not really comfortable with, whereas DraftKings you don't have that luxury as much. It is a favorable lineup for Kikuchi. There's no James McCann and there's no Wellington Castillo. Once you get past So you have Tim Anderson, Jose Abreu, Eloy Jimenez, Yohan Moncada are all dangerous hitters. You get past that, you have Danny Mendick. He projects for about a 20% strikeout percentage from Steamer, projects for a 129 ISO. You have Adam Engel, who's terrible. You have left-handed Zach Collins. You have Ryan Cordell, who's not any good. So it's about as bad a lineup as the White Sox could have reasonably run out there against Kikuchi. That doesn't mean that I think he's super likely to have a good game, but it certainly helps. If his ownership drops a little bit, I'll start to get more. I have him, like I said earlier, I have him projected very similarly to Adrian Hauser. So I think it's just going to come down to, like, if they're projected for the same amount of ownership, I kind of just get to them equally. If one's projected for twice the ownership of the other, I'll just kind of end up flip-flopping it because I don't have a strong preference between them. As far as Dylan Covey goes, we have him projected right now for only 6% ownership on DraftKings. I got to double the field on that. 12% is more than enough for this guy for me. It's a good pitcher's park. It's 65, 67 degrees in Seattle. He has about a 16.5% strikeout percentage this year. He has a 5.61 Sierra. He's never really been good at all in the major leagues, but he's 4K, and I already have 25% Aaron Brooks. I don't need more. I already have 10% Jordan Zimmerman. I don't need more. So I'll get to some Dylan Covey just because he's 4K.
You're all set with your crap pitching on the day, I guess. That seems
exactly
fair. And Covey too, also giving up a 10% barreled ball rate. Not great signifiers here for him in terms of the power going against Seattle's power. And they have struck out though, to their credit, or to Covey's credit, 26% K rate versus right-hand pitching, but also a 195 ISO going along with it. I mean, these are two teams who have some decent power. So I guess let's talk about the hitting fast. Any interest in the Seattle hitters who are going against Covey?
Not getting a lot of Seattle, which I'm kind of surprised about, but at the same time, if you look at their lineup, it makes sense. I think if JP Crawford's back, he's a decent shortstop option. Vogelbach is solid, so is Seager. But then you start to run into guys like Kyle Lewis and Shed Long and guys that I don't really want. They do have a 5.1 implied run total though, so maybe if ownership does something different than it's at right now, I'll start to get more. I am getting to some White Sox though. Anderson, Abreu, Jimenez, Moncada in particular. They just give you plenty of power. Eloy Jimenez is only 4,200 on DraftKings, so that he stands out as my favorite bat from the White Sox.
I won't let you slander Kyle Lewis. At 11 at bats, he's got a 909 ISO.
Yeah, so he homered off my boy Tyler Mahle last night. So.
Oh, there you go. So that'll help out a bit. But yeah, he's had a crazy home run rate. Obviously will not maintain these numbers, but they're all green right now for him and his 11 at-bats in the majors. So good for Kyle Lewis. I'm proud of you, Kyle Lewis. But yeah, I agree too with the White Sox as well. Abreu's hit lefties really well over the last couple of years, and he seems like a guy who's immediately going to cause some issues for Kikuchi owners tonight. But the hope is that you can survive. As Adam mentioned, that's a terrible bottom of the White Sox lineup with some negative WRC pluses, some terrible numbers, and some bad names too. Mendick is a terrible last name. I don't know how he's lived like that. Probably by being good at baseball. Let's keep going to the last game here, and actually probably one of the more important ones. We have Miami getting 3.7 implied runs against Tyler Beede, who is one of the chalk pitching options of the day, both on DraftKings. He's also got some ownership on FanDuel, which is surprising because usually cheap guys don't pick up much on FanDuel. And on the other side, San Francisco getting 4.8 implied runs against Sandy Alcantara, a guy who has benefited quite a bit from pitching in Marlins Park. Been really mostly mediocre on the year with a 5.3 xFIP, not giving up a ton of power though, and not giving up a lot of barreled balls. So how about Tyler Beede? Let's talk about him first. Are you comfortable with him as the chalk pitcher of the day?
Yeah, he's my favorite of the cheap guys, and it's not really close. Obviously, that worked out miserably with Tyler Mahle last night, but I'm doing it again. I was actually surprised in my first crunch that I only got 42% Beede on DraftKings. I thought that I would just get even more, and maybe as more value opens up, as lineups come out, that'll be the case. But it's really as good a spot as you can get facing Miami in San Francisco. Beede's been much better against right-handed hitters than left-handed hitters this season. He struck out 24.9% of righties compared to about 16.5% of lefties. He's still given up some power to righties, but there's not a whole lot of power to speak of in the Miami lineup. And then, on top of that, he's pitching in the best pitcher's park. He's been really good at home this year. It's obviously not the biggest sample because he spent part of the year in AAA and then, half of his games approximately outside of San Francisco. But against right-handed hitters in Oracle, he has about a 29% strikeout percentage, 4.5% walk percentage, 25 K minus BB percentage. So he's really, really looked good at home, as you would expect. Like his numbers are just going to be better at home. There's no reason they wouldn't be. So you're getting probably 6 or 7 righties in the Miami lineup. You're getting a pitcher. I love Tyler Beede here. I think he's a perfectly fine play on FanDuel. I think he's a great play on Yahoo. I think he's a great play on DraftKings.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I didn't actually realize that his splits were quite that big at home versus righties. But yeah, that's a big jump. And as you mentioned, it's a terrible Miami lineup, really. Their highest isolated power hitter over the last 2 seasons is going to be Garrett Cooper with a 158 ISO versus righties. And that's not good in this park. Not a big danger spot, it looks like, for Beede, but it being DFS, of course, who knows. Yeah. How about $8,100 Sandy Alcantara on DraftKings? What did he do to deserve that price jump?
Yeah, no thanks.
How about the hitting here? Because we do have at least one owned pitcher who has struggled with power, and any Miami stack interest or Giant stack interest.
It looks like I got to like a handful of Miami stacks. It's not something I wouldn't be upset if those go away. I would be upset if it increases from a handful.
Yeah, I would agree. That's a lot of Mendick jokes, by the way, in the YouTube chat, which are making me giggle as we talk. It's just a funny name. I don't know how to go otherwise. But yeah, I'm with you on that. I think some Miami leverage could make sense, just given how much Beede has struggled overall. But I'll have a lot of Beede today, and I think probably even more than the field. And I'm comfortable with that because it's just not a good Miami team, and it is a park that is going to help them out. Still not very hot in San Francisco, even though they have their little Indian summers out there. All right, we are just got a couple minutes left, so guys, hit that like button real fast. And of course, also go check out our sponsor, Yahoo. They are a proud presenter of the Deeper Dive, doing a great job help keeping this up afloat all year long. So please go support them. Go use the promo code AWESEMO on Yahoo right now if you are signing up and making your first deposit. Get yourself $30 of free play there with your deposit. So go check it out right now. And there are a lot of deals with them going on. They have their $1 million baller, one of the better tournaments to go to right now if you are playing in this industry. 150 max entries this week, which have to be entered by hand. And you could be there right on the team with Adam this weekend. Build it on by hand yourself to try to capitalize on the fact that it is a $1 million no management fee contest. 100K to first, 150 max again, $20 to enter. So just get in there right now. It's a competitor to a lot of the other tournaments out there, but it is the only one out of these big $1 million kind of, let's put the neon lights out there tournaments out there where there are no management fees. Let's go to Yahoo right now and use that promo code AWESEMO for your $30 free. Adam, who are going to be your top pitchers on the day?
Tyler Beede, Garrett Cole.
I agree on those, and top stacks.
With the ownership looking how it is right now, Houston, San Diego, Minnesota.
All right, so there we go. That's everything that you need to know on today's slate. We will have Live Before Lock coming up right here on the same YouTube channel with, I believe it's Josh and Jake today, but Josh, chime in. Is it you and Jake?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. the voiceless act of God come chiming in here, but we appreciate it. So stay tuned for those guys right now. Hit the like button for them as they come on. We'll be back with you guys again soon. So thank you guys for watching the Deeper Dive, and good luck tonight. Bye, guys.
go. I'm going to need to make myself bigger. There we go. Live before lock, Friday the 13th of September. And we've got 13 games. That's super creepy. Jake, how you feeling on this lovely Friday?
Yeah, I didn't even realize about the 13 games, but I don't know. It's Friday, man. I mean, one more show for me after this tomorrow morning early with EMAC. It feels like we haven't done a show together in a while, but yeah, man, more baseball. Showdown didn't go great for me last night. Yeah, that was last night. So I'm back to make it up tonight on this MLB slate.
MLB didn't go well, so hopefully MLB can make it up to me on this MLB slate.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Josh should freestyle the entire show. Yeah, I think that would be a pretty bad show. You want to watch the view count go down? That's what would happen there.
I don't know. I think we might get some stragglers from it.
Not the right kind of stragglers. Let's hit the plugs. Live before lock is the promo code. 50% off your first month of Awesemo Plus. If you want to check out everything that we have to offer, highly recommend you use the promo code Live Before Lock to do it when signing up. 50% off that first month. And as usual on Live Before Lock, we are brought to you by Fantasy Draft. They are the only rake-free daily fantasy site. They've partnered with Hooters to bring you the largest guaranteed rake-free contest in the history of fantasy sports. If you go to fantasydraft.com, use the promo code AWESEMO, you can get a 7-day free trial where you would get $1,000 of rake-free entries. Won't cost you a single cent. You cannot beat it. Void where prohibited. Got to be 18 years of age. Go to Fantasy Draft. Use the promo code AWESEMO when signing up. And come try to beat me this Sunday while I am going to confidently take your money.
Confidently? Wow.
Feeling good, man. I'm feeling good.
Which tournaments are you playing on Fantasy Draft this weekend?
I haven't figured it out yet. I don't know if I'm going to max the 4 or just throw a bundle of entries into the Millie. The Hooters.
Why not both? I mean, yeah, it's rake-free fantasy. So we've been talking about Fantasy Draft lately. Pretty cool thing they're doing with no rake on their tournaments. As you say, everything that goes into the contest comes back out to the winners. You still got to be good at DFS, or you just don't have to be as good to make profit.
Yeah,
so
you can be less talented.
Yeah, you could be like me lately in MLB and just not make very much money. And then you go over to Fantasy Draft and you make a little bit more money because of the no rake. So I'm saving a lot of money over there, playing every day now. Got my 30 lineups ready, and hopefully I'll win a few hundred and then put it right back into that $20 this weekend.
There you go. Thomas Tyner says Josh going out tonight. I guess probably because I don't have a hat on. Josh not going out tonight. Josh cannot wait to go lay down on the couch after the show is over.
What's the night looking like for you after this? Are you watching some documentaries, or what do you got?
Probably Mindhunter season 2. That would be my guess. Okay. Like 2/3 of the way through that. When is picture day? That's a good one. Although if there's anything new that we haven't caught in the past couple of days, we might watch that too. The wife was out of town yesterday, and she'll be out of town again tomorrow. What?
Euphoria? Have you seen it yet?
No, it's next. When Mindhunter ends, Euphoria is next.
Okay. Yeah, then you guys are gonna binge that together. I wonder. Well, I'm not gonna give anything away, but I wonder if that's gonna be your cup of tea because you're a little bit older, and like you're obviously not like my mom's age, but my mom was like, "Yeah, I can't." Man. No, I know, but like we're like almost a generation away.
How old's your mom?
She's in her 50s.
Okay.
So I just wonder if it translates or like it hits home as much. It probably does for you, but you're like your age is probably like the cutoff.
Yeah.
Like if you got like a 40-year-old, they'd probably be like, what is this? Like, because it's all about high school.
Okay.
And stuff.
I think I've got my finger on the pulse to at least a small degree.
I think you're going to be okay watching it, but it's just funny, like the differences between the ages. So I really liked it. I thought it was great. Other people don't, but I think you'll like it.
Okay. I'm in. I guess we should probably talk baseball.
I think so.
Okay.
I think that's what we're paid to do here.
I mean, I could talk a little MMA. We've got Justin Gaethje, Donald Cerrone coming up tomorrow. We've got a nice Premier League slate starting off tomorrow morning. Liverpool playing at 7:30. I could talk soccer and MMA if you want to skip baseball today.
No, let's talk some MLB. We got Garrett Cole on the slate, so that's always a good time.
All righty. Garrett Cole, Tyler Beede, two pitchers over 30% ownership on DK. They are the two chalkiest pitchers. How do you feel about both of them? Josh looks 50, immediately followed by Josh looks 19. Split the difference, I guess. Josh is 35.
Yeah.
34. How fucking old am I?
Somewhere in there. You're definitely between those two ages.
I'm 34.
Garrett Cole is going to be probably my highest exposed pitcher on the slate, which I did not expect when I was watching this morning, watching you and Adam go through it. I just, like Adam said just now in the deeper dive, I rarely get to the highest priced pitcher on a slate, on a Coors slate, with a bunch of top bats. But I am getting to a ton of Cole tonight, and I hope that sticks. He just grades out so well. I mean, he's an elite pitcher, first of all, and I'm not finding it too difficult to get quality lineups with Cole at 12-2. So I like where I'm at. I like where I'm starting a lot of my lineups with what I think is the best play on the slate.
He's very clearly the top option today. I don't even think it's particularly close. Yeah. If Max Scherzer were at like full capacity and didn't have the Braves, you might be able to be close just because of the price difference. But yeah, full stop. Garrett Cole with a bullet, number one. I can't imagine saying anything else. What do you think about the ownership coming to Scherzer and Kershaw,
though? Let's see. I just think that Cole is the best play in that area. So I'm not getting to a lot of Scherzer and Kershaw. I don't really see a reason why that would change. Kershaw at 10-8, and then Scherzer's at 11-4. Just tougher matchups, in my opinion, than Garrett Cole, and not as good of strikeout pitchers as Garrett Cole too. So you're paying a similar price. I mean, Kershaw a little bit further away, but man, I just think Garrett Cole is such a better play than those two. And if they're going to be owned similarly, where do we have Scherzer right now?
24, unless we got an ownership update in the last 5 minutes.
24. Like, that's the gap's not wide enough between Scherzer, Cole, and Kershaw for me to want to get to a ton of those other guys.
T McBee asking if I've caught the new Bill Burr special. Way ahead of you. Already watched it.
Ooh, I haven't seen that. Did it just come out?
Yes. Maybe Monday, Tuesday, something like that. I can't keep track, but within the last 7 days. It's really good. It picked up. I like the final 40 minutes more than the first 20, but very happy. Can't wait to watch it again.
Well, there you go. I got to watch that one too.
Highly recommended. Yeah. Highly recommended. Tyler Beede, 32% owned. Yusei Kikuchi, 20. And in what's a little bit of a surprise to me, Zimmerman, Brooks, and Covey, all under 10. How do you feel about the guys at the bottom?
Let's see. I'm getting some separation between the two. I'll filter my stuff out by pitchers here. Did you mention Hauser in that range?
I did not. Also, 7% owned.
Yeah, so he's my favorite guy. Shocking. This is a guy I feel like he pitches against St. Louis every start, but Hauser's kind of my super cheap guy, or I guess he's not super cheap. There are guys cheaper than him, but 5,700 I think for a pretty decent strikeout pitcher against the Cardinals. 4.3 implied total against. I really, really like Hauser. I love that he's not getting owned. I don't understand why he's not getting owned, because he's a guy who we've seen not only is he a guy that can reach value at this price. We've seen him score 30 points at this price, and it's not outrageous to think that he could do that again. Whereas these other guys, and granted they are a little bit cheaper, I don't think that's a realistic outcome. I think you're probably capped at around 20 if things go perfectly for Zimmerman or Brooks, or who was the other guy you mentioned?
Covey.
Oh, Covey. Yeah, man. Covey is so bad, dude. That being said, I did get to 8% of him So there you go. That's above the field. Brooks was my second guy after Hauser in that low tier. Got to Kikuchi at about 10%, but he's getting ownership. I don't see a huge difference between all of these guys.
Same. Beatty, Hauser, Kikuchi, Zimmerman, Brooks, Covey, I think are all really similar from a per dollar perspective.
Yeah. It's just.
And like good too. I don't mean like they are good, but I mean, I think they're all good value, not just like these are the best of a bad situation. They're all grading out really well on a dollar for dollar basis. Way better than value has been lately.
Yep, exactly. No, this is a really good pitching slate. We got a good one tomorrow. I was taking a look right in this Spotlight Pitchers article for tomorrow. A lot of good options today and tomorrow, whereas yesterday we just had nothing going, and the day before as well. So all the quality pitching stacked up. Plus we've got the cheap guys to go with it on the big slate. So pitching looks pretty good. I'm not like, are you seeing anyone that you just think their ownership is wrong? Like, is there someone you just think the field's wrong on?
Clayton Kershaw.
14%.
Yeah, I don't think that he should really be getting anything today.
I'm not in love with him either. So I got 0. Depending on how much I want to bump up hitters, I might end up with a couple shares, meaning that I just drop off of Cole in some lineups. But even when I refilter Kershaw, still at 0. If I bump up all the hitters, I don't know. It's
like I don't think Beatty should be 32% owned, given how I feel about everybody else. But I understand why he is. I don't think it's wrong, but I don't think like he's the best GPP play now because of that.
Yeah.
Love him in cash though, that's for sure. No brainer cash play, I think. Interesting.
Emac just messaged me. I'm assuming he's fine if I say this on the air. It's not a secret. Milwaukee not letting pitchers go a third time against opponents. It's been just over a week since someone went beyond the 5th, most getting pulled at 4 or 4 and change. So interesting nugget there.
Yeah.
From the Mac.
I mean,
last time,
should they have been pulled?
That's the question too. The context, of course, matters. But if they're coming out and saying that, then that's a little bit of an issue with Hauser. But he is a good strikeout pitcher, so at least for guys in this range.
Yeah.
So I'm not that worried about it if he only goes 4, and they just cut it off there, and he has 4 good innings. I'd probably take that for 5,700 for a guy that can get Ks.
Yeah, I have no issue with it. I mean, it's not like I have him going particularly deep. I have him at 5.2 innings. So, I mean, he's obviously, if you think it's 4, he's essentially unplayable. But
you said this morning his K prop or his innings prop was at 5 2/3, right?
It's whatever I have it in there as. I don't really mess around with them. So if I have 5.2, that's what it is right now.
Yeah, so that's at least a little bit.
We just got all of the lineups.
We did?
Yep.
Oh,
Twins are in, Marlins are in, Angels are in.
Whoa.
Trout is in the lineup, by the way, so that makes me
Nice.
not have much interest in Charlie Morton.
Yeah, we thought we might get a watered-down lineup there. Rengifo, Ward, Smith.
All of the questionable Twins guys look to be playing as well. I didn't know if we were going to get that Marlins one anytime soon, and I was like, I actually don't give a shit. Didn't matter.
We just got a projections update too. I'm assuming everything is in there.
All I need is an ownership update, and we're good to go.
Yeah, I'm pretty much good to go with my my DK lineups at least because I don't need ownership right away. I'm only playing on DK and fantasy draft tonight.
It's funny. I'm only playing on FanDuel.
You're only playing on FanDuel? All right. So when we first started doing the show, you were more of a FanDuel guy, and I was a DK guy. And now we've got these other fantastic sites that we play on. So it'll be just like old times. You can do
it's perfect.
And I can refer to DK.
I started the year off playing only on FanDuel fairly lucratively.
Yeah, you crushed early in the season.
I would love to go do a lineup rewind on that shit right about now.
Yeah.
May was very, very good.
I did not have a good opening opening part of the season, I learned some expensive lessons.
I had the highest scoring lineup of opening day across the entire industry.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It paid off not nearly as much as it should have.
I know. Well, you pointed that out on one of the strategy shows when I won like the small tournament or whatever, the mini max.
Yeah, you would have banked like the $10.
I like did it 2 nights later and I didn't even bank, but I would have won the bigger tournament. So I just picked the wrong days to move up in stakes. So that's always fun.
Joe in premium. Josh did not get a haircut. I mean, not today. Haven't gotten a haircut, like an actual haircut, anything from like the side of my head up in like 6 months.
6 months?
Something like that, yeah. I haven't touched anything on the top.
Wow.
I just have naturally incredible locks, Jake.
I mean, it looks like it. They just grow, but they don't grow too fast. You don't get the split ends. You just grows perfectly, huh?
Fantastic mane.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
What else do we got going on here? Okay, so there's one thing I wanted to point out on DK for you. From Charlie Morton, I'm sorting salary from top to bottom. From Charlie Morton to Mike Leake, which is a group of 14 pitchers. No one is above 9% ownership. Do you like anybody in that range more than what they're being owned? Are any of those guys a double-digit guy to you?
Charlie Morton to Mike Leake?
Yes.
Let's see.
Everybody in there is less than 10%.
How about Tanaka?
Okay. That's the guy you're getting to? I think he's the best of everybody there, so we're on the same page. I
mean, I'm not getting to him a crazy amount, but double the field right now. If we put him at the 7-8% range, I've got him around 15. Just a team that he can get strikeouts against. The win equity is big. It's not a crazy price for Tanaka. They've priced him down for good reason lately because he just hasn't been the same pitcher as we've seen in years past. I don't think it's like a smash spot for Tanaka, and I'm not playing him like it, but if we're looking at mid-tier guys playing 150 lineups, I think Tanaka is a guy that deserves to at least be in the conversation for multi-entry.
Got you there. I completely agree. I think he's the guy that's probably going most under-owned on this slate.
Oh, the most under-owned? Where would you have him on DK, do you think?
I'd be double that 7% number, I think, pretty easily. I don't think that I'd be getting any of that ownership going to Kershaw. So I think that Tanaka, I would probably be in like the 15 to 20 range, if I had to guess. Nice. I don't know what just happened, but the sky has opened up. It is pouring outside. I didn't even know it was supposed to rain.
Let's see. I think it's sunny over here. It was earlier. Nice to see. It rained for like 3 straight days.
It could have been raining all day, honestly, and I really wouldn't know.
Just chilling in the desk chair the entire day.
Pretty much. Thank God I got a good one.
I need to get a new one too.
Highly recommended. It's a game changer, honestly.
I know. You sent me the price of yours.
I just sent that same chair to Tom too. He was like, I need a desk chair. What'd you get and do you like it? I was like, I did. Are you near like a big city?
Minneapolis.
How close?
15, 20 miles.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the chair that I got is like a very popular business chair. And in big cities, you can usually find them on Craigslist after like businesses go under and get it for like, 50% less than the new price. So might be something to look at. I know Craigslist is a bit of a interesting grab nowadays.
Yeah, people not just selling products.
They're selling themselves.
Or there's if you've ever listened to Chris D'Elia's podcast, he just has a segment on it where he just reads Craigslist ads, and it is some of the funniest stuff I've ever heard. The descriptions. People in chat have probably listened to it. They'll know what I'm talking about, but he's a comedian. For anyone that doesn't know, it's hysterical.
It's a good show.
Have you heard his podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
I'm hip, Jake.
I know. We like a lot of the same things. Except maybe not Euphoria. We'll see.
Oh, God. Oh, it's nice to see that everyone's favorite YouTube troll has another new troll handle.
Another one?
Yeah.
Oh, let me see.
It'll stand out like a sore thumb. Meanwhile, Dave is in Slack posting disgusting pictures of food for the 800th straight day.
Dude, I don't see who it is, but whatever.
Cantor 33. I got a Herman Miller arrow. Aeron? Something that begins with an A. It's been a while. Super comfortable, though.
Ship cost me big yesterday with his take on Darvish.
That's not the first time I've heard that today.
Well, to be fair, I don't think Adam put him in your lineup, but neither of us were on him. So
Adam addressed it on the show. He didn't exactly expect him to be going 110 pitches either.
Yeah, we talked about it. We were like, I mean, the logic was sound. It didn't work out, but yeah, there was no reason to believe he was going to be able to throw over 100 pitches. They were talked about limiting his innings, and he struck out, 13, 14 guys? I don't know. There's just no way, that you could have guessed that performance was coming. It was 10-3.
Yeah. Let's see. This is a weird. I mean, we have 5 guys over 10% ownership. 4 of them pretty aggressively so. 4 over 20. This is. Who do you think is the guy that's not getting any ownership that is most likely to be in a winning lineup? Kind of like the good version of Paul Blackburn of the night.
Oh, the reverse Paul Blackburn?
Yeah.
A good player? Well, I'm not playing many of them, so I don't want to.
Castillo?
So you could see a scenario in which Castillo or Morton just overcome a tough matchup just because they're really good pitchers and they're not getting owned. So if Kershaw falters a little bit, these guys are cheaper than him. I don't think they're going for 35 points here, but if they go for 27 or something and they're just kind of the best guy in that range, I wouldn't be shocked if either Castillo or Morton went off a little bit, but it's really tough. Not favorable spots for either of them.
No, not at all. We're getting dangerously close to dong picks, and I'm pretty excited for that. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I saw you taking a little victory lap yesterday.
Yeah, with tumbleweeds going through. I'm trying to talk smack, and there's not a soul in our baseball Slack.
No one wants to hear, a sore winner, Josh.
Nobody wanted to hear anything, man. Everybody was just watching football.
Oh, it was another barn burner of a game. We watched some awful quarterback play, and I lost a lot of money playing Showdown.
As did most people, I would imagine.
Not one guy who just smashes Showdown.
Alex?
Did Alex?
Oh, no. I mean, he always smashes Showdown, so.
No. Drew B. Banked a Showdown yesterday. He's a stud.
Yeah. All right, let's just get into dong picks. It's 6:27. I'm out of stuff to talk about right here in terms of pitching. Here's a little bit of an update on yesterday's standings. Only one person got a dong. Can you tell by my voice who that person was? Yeah, it was me.
You sound pretty smug, so your guess is as good as mine.
What else is new, though? I mean, that's not really any different than any other show, so.
That's a great point.
Current standings are as follows. EMAC at 30. Jake is at 29. This guy, 28. Spags at 24. Randone at 11. But most importantly, pick rate, 23.9%. Almost 2 full percent clear of second place. This guy, running away with the accuracy. Just too damn good. Spags at 22%. Jake at 21.5. EMAC at 21.4. Randone at 20 flat. Feeling pretty good here. The floor is still yours.
You'd think it's over.
Wait, what?
From the sound of your voice, you'd think it's over.
I wish it were over.
I know. You're not safe. Not even close for the pick rate.
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. I mean, I could just as easily not get a home run for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever I have in here is completely wrong because for some reason, somehow, I'm giving Austin Romine 7 plate appearances. I have the Yankees in here twice somehow. He's in here twice. Delete that.
I mean, they have a 6 implied total, so they could.
Oh man, am I getting a lot of Austin Romine?
I don't think that's the worst play in the world.
Well, I don't think that I need to give him both the 8 and 9 spot in the order, which is what is happening.
I'd definitely play him for 3,600 if he was batting 8th and 9th.
3,600. What is he on FanDuel? Probably a bargain.
25. Wow.
Yeah,
There you go.
it's decent. Probably projected for 17 fantasy points because of how I did that. So okay, the floor is yours, Jake. Who is going to be your dong pick for today?
All right, just uploading my fantasy draft lineups. Those are in. Let me just hop over to my exposures. This is how I usually do it. I don't have a fancy model like you and really just you. Team B, I know, has a fancy model. Why don't you give me an Oakland bat? Let's see, which one am I going to take, though? That's the question. Who's going to dong off Brock Burke? In fact, who's not going to dong off Brock Burke?
There you go.
Why don't you give me Ramon Liriano? I'm pretty certain I've never taken this man.
I'm confident that that's true as well.
I don't know if anybody's ever taken him. So the triple dong is going to feel really good.
Yeah, you earned it if you get it there, man. I don't know who to take. I am struggling to find someone that stands out today. It's a kind of a bleak slate in terms of like power potential. I mean, Jordan Zimmerman is grading out these, or not Jordan Zimmerman. Mark Trumbo against Jordan Zimmerman is like grading out decent to me, and I don't really know how to like reconcile that in my head. Let's see. By the way, I like that Laureano pick.
Thank you. I do as well.
I didn't want to slow roll it there, but I think that's a really nice pick. It's a good park, good matchup. I like it. I kind of want to troll you. I'm not going to, but I kind of want to troll you.
I mean, you've got a ton of options. Semi and Kana. I think Olson's a good pick. Chris Davis. Like, there's a lot of guys to root for, depending on how you feel for Oakland.
I'm going to go a different direction, I think. Let me look at one thing. I'm between two guys right now, and I just want to see one final stat on their opposing pitcher, and then I'm good to go.
All right.
There we go. So, oh wow, really? Going for it. I don't care. Going all the way to the top with this one.
Nelly Cruz.
Yes. Nelson Cruz, come on down.
He's always number one in your model. He's always number one.
He's not always number one.
I swear, dude. Well, I mean, outside of like Coors.
The Dodgers get to the top quite a bit.
Oh, okay. It feels like it's always Cruz, or he's like a top 3 guy for you.
I mean, that makes me feel like it's correct.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty decent model.
Nelly Cruz. How many times have I taken him this year?
Dude, I don't think I've gotten one with Cruz this season. I've taken him probably like 5 or 6 times, so that's fine.
I've taken him 3 times. I'm 1 for 3. Matt Chapman and Mark Canha for EMAC and Spags.
Well, EMAC, should we tell him that Chapman's not in the lineup?
Probably.
Or do we just lock that in?
I mean, you can get a pinch hit home run.
I mean, that'd be next level.
It is not our responsibility.
Well, whatever.
Gio Urshela coming in for Randone. I guess he's getting off the Freddie Freeman tip.
Yeah.
Mark Canha, Ramon Laureano.
Whoa.
Matt Chapman, pinch hit dong.
You see what Brett just sent us?
Wait, what?
Brett.
No, I see it. Does he know him?
I don't know, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Oh, he knows his best friend. That's
there we
sick.
go.
Well,
I
there
was
you
like,
go.
man, that's like a really weird thing to just be like, I'm gonna get Jake a baseball jersey if this happens, without having some sort of tie to this guy.
That's sick. I'll wear that jersey. If he double dongs, I'll wear that jersey on stream for the rest of the season.
So the man behind our Twitter account, I guess Brett has a tie to Ramon Laureano in some way. So double dong for Laureano gets Jake a jers.
All right. Well, triple dong. I mean, man, I'm probably flying first class to the A's closing series or something like that. So,
a guy in YouTube chat right now got me. Has my name, like he's got a nickname, so it's Josh quotes Engelman, but the quote is, "I'm between two guys right now."
there we go.
Kudos, my man. Kudos.
Oh man, these Friday streams.
Honestly. Okay, let's move to hitting. Who is your team of the day?
Shocking, but the Oakland Athletics against Brock Burke. I really, 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 really enjoy playing some Oakland bats tonight.
No respect for Burke, man.
No respect. Just a lot of respect for Oakland. I mean, they ran out outside of Chapman. I don't know how this could be a better lineup to face a lefty. Once again, I think it was yesterday with you or maybe with Adam. You're seeing the lefties go somewhat avoided, or the lefty.
Yeah.
Like Olsen is at 5% and the rest of the stack is chalky. So you know what to do there. Just play more than 5%. Play him in your Oakland stacks if you're under the field. That's a nice way to differentiate while also taking one of the best bats in that lineup. Already proclaimed my love for Laureano. Davis has been a little bit better as of late. He's getting ownership, so I'm not making a huge stance on him. But
speaking of ownership, did you know we got it 10 minutes ago?
Let's see.
Last update 626.
No, I don't. Maybe not. I don't know. Whatever. I'll just post it again.
Okay.
Anything crazy
in our ownership?
Yeah.
Max Scherzer is the chalk on DK. Has that been the case?
Nope.
Yeah, Max Scherzer, 36% ownership on DraftKings right now.
So he jumped way up because Cole jumped down. So now when I refilter, wow, this is interesting. When I refilter now, I get
Hauser into 11 now too as well.
As he should be.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh God, I didn't figure out the names before the show. Let's see. Which names am I missing? Danny Mendick, Chris's boy.
Apparently my wife is home.
Hey, Josh's wife.
Yeah.
All right, so let me put Mendick in there and see if that changes anything. Who else am I missing? CJ Cron is just not in the lineup, right? We were waiting on the Twins when I crunched.
I guess not.
Man, it is elite to not have to crunch on the show and then speed through it.
Yeah.
Like when we get like 90% of the lineups and we're waiting on like one or two, depending on the slate size.
Super helpful, man. Super
you just
helpful.
do it before the show and have your crunch and then filter out. Oh, that is the best.
Jose Abreu.
So he did make a new pick. He didn't want to stick with the pinch hit Chapman dong.
Dude, if Chapman does dong today, it's going to be hilarious.
I'm going to be so mad.
If EMAC were behind, I'd be willing to give them both. But no chance I'm making that pitch.
Yeah, no way. All right, let's see. I juiced hitters a little bit more. I just cannot get away from Garrett Cole. This is weird to be on this side of things.
To be fair, you shouldn't get away from Garrett Cole.
No, I shouldn't. Let me look at where the projections are at for him on the site. If you guys don't have Osmo Premium or Platinum, I guess it's called now. We're going through a bit of a change with our packages. We have express packages for more casual players and people that don't want the ownership projections. We have ownership rankings, player rankings, and all that. But the projections are my favorite thing, one of my favorite things for MLB. And there's just a big gap in the projection from Alex's model between Cole and Scherzer.
Yeah.
Scherzer's higher owned.
How big is the gap?
It is 4.7.5. Yeah, 4.75 points, somewhere in there.
I can't say that I feel that that's wrong.
So you do your own numbers for anyone that's new. Where did he come in? Where did the two come in for you?
6.2 is the gap. So close to Alex's.
I mean, yeah, dude, this is a scenario like that's all but going to get me off of Scherzer entirely, because the gap is huge between the projection between the two, and then the ownership is in Scherzer's favor. So this is one where Alex just thinks that the ownership is incorrect.
Yeah.
So other projection sources must have Scherzer being the better play. Just eyeballing it, I don't think Scherzer is the better play.
I mean, to me now, he is an obvious fade.
Yeah, that's a huge gap.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'd be thrilled, honestly.
Even if Scherzer comes down to like 30 and Cole goes back up to 38.
Scherzer at 20 on FanDuel, but I think it's much more reasonable there.
What's the price difference there?
$1,600. Cole at 12K, okay. Scherzer at 10.4. I'm going to have both of them.
Makes more sense for sure over there.
Yeah. So what other stacks besides Oakland? Where are you leaning?
Houston. I really like Houston.
Yeah.
I'm finding it's difficult to get to them with Cole, but that's what these mega punt guys are for. Hauser. I got some Jeff Hoffman, which is just disgusting. Zimmerman, Brooks, all these bad pitchers down here. They do allow you to get a few Houston bats in with Cole on the 2 pitcher sites, DraftKings and Fantasy Draft specifically. So they're not even that difficult for me to get to with Cole. I'm at 82% Garrett Cole, but I still have a bunch of the Oakland or Houston hitters in like the mid-teens and upper teens as well. So I'm pretty pumped.
That's a lot of Cole, man.
Yeah,
I don't disagree with it or anything, but I'm surprised to hear you get to that much.
I almost never do, but this is a weird scenario where the projection system does not agree with the ownership at all. So I'm just hoping to take advantage of that.
By the way, great time for everybody to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.
Oh, it's always a great time for that.
Yeah, of course. I just realized that I never made a change to the stack, so I'm up to 634 stacks on FanDuel. I probably can cut that off now.
Terrible takes are what makes fantasy sports. That way we have something to argue with. That's why our jobs exist.
Oh, you know? God, no, I hate terrible takes.
Oh, well, I have a lot of them, so
I can't relate. I assume that every take I have is 100% correct when it comes out of my mouth.
I always just assume my takes are wrong and someone to yell at me and correct me, and then I usually just give in. Say, you're probably right. So, like, what was the one I had the other week? Or I said I didn't like JJ Watt's not my guy or something.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, well, what about the hurricane relief? It's like, okay, well, that's a different, can compartmentalize that. He did a good thing. It doesn't mean that I have to like him.
Right.
Overall, obviously, can't argue. So that's the kind of take where I just back off entirely.
Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, Josh says he can't relate. That shouldn't even be a take to anybody. Of course I can't relate. My takes are always fantastic. You guys know this. I believe you believe that, Josh. Exactly. Exactly. That's the key to it all. If it's truth in your own mind, it's truth for real.
Yeah, everyone's got their truths, right?
Exactly.
Find your truth. Let me take leverage out of the equation entirely and see if anything changes. I'm trying to find a reason or even a way to get off of Cole, and I can't at all.
I don't think you should try to get off of Cole.
I'm just seeing if I'm messing something up. Like if I it would just it looks too good to be true on your numbers or whatever.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I understand where you're coming from.
And it's like, well, what did I mess up here? What am I did I put the hitters up too high? Did I, is Cole's projection just straight up wrong? So we've got some time. So I'm just looking to make sure I'm assuming everyone using projections on the site is getting a ton of Cole as well. So I'm not going to be alone. Like I would imagine Adam has just a ton of Cole as well. And if Adam has a ton of Cole and Alex has a ton of Cole and Tom has a bunch of Cole and you have a bunch of Cole, then I'm usually feeling okay with my process if that happens.
Give me 1 second. I need to close my office door. I could hear whatever my wife is watching on TV.
I can kind of faintly hear an echo for anyone. I don't know if you guys heard that as well, if it just came through my my headphones here, but could just barely hear what was going on back there.
I'm back.
Yeah.
Let's talk about over-owned stacks right now. So Top Stacks tool, free today, just in case people weren't aware. It was a part of our little commercial in between shows, but let's just pull it over here for right now. Could take a peek at it. On DraftKings, the most over-owned team is the Colorado Rockies. How do you feel about the Rocks today?
Most over-owned team?
Yes.
On DK?
Yep. Two times their ownership is twice their top stack probability right now.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Let me see here. Let me load this in. This is going to change a few things for me. Yeah, wow, the gap has gotten even wider. So that's going to push me off even more, Colorado. I'm not wild about them anyways, just because of how easy they are to put in lineups. Like no team in Coors should be this easy to put in lineups. So that's going to make their ownership come up. It's going to make ownership come up on bad players or below average players like Daza, Butera, and Valleca. And that's just not something I'm interested in doing. So I'd love to get to Story, of course. I know it's in Coors against the lefty, but I still would like to play Trevor Story. Yeah. Arenado, same thing. I think you can probably make a case for him tonight. But the rest of the guys I'm not too wild about.
Now, this is one of those interesting things that I think we should probably touch on a little bit, where just because Colorado is over-owned in this spot, they're still the fifth most likely team to hit their top stack percentage. So it's not like I would want to just disregard them because of that gap.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of their ownership is coming because they're pretty favorably priced. So I don't need to be with the field, but they're still a team that I definitely want to have. They are one of only 5 teams to be, north of 5.1% top stack odds. Yeah,
so 100%. I mean, so we kind of throw around and I do it a ton, like over-own, under-own. That doesn't mean you can't play the stack, right? Or play parts of the stack. Like I'm playing Story and Arenado in double digits in my DK exposures. I have Colorado stacks on Fantasy Draft, but the field's also smaller on Fantasy Draft, so I'm competing against less people. Like I'm just talking about, I don't think I would want to be over the field on a bunch of guys like Hampson, even though he's 3K batting second. He's still not a great hitter. Might work out tonight, but Valleca, Daza, Butera, these are all optimizer plays that anyone could point to and say, all right, this is a good point per dollar value.
Yep.
So that's usually a stack I'm looking to get away from, especially on a 13-game slate on Friday the 13th.
We're on the same page here. I'm going to just export these lineups now. I just don't care to let it run any longer. I kind of just want to put this to bed and upload my lineups and be done with it and answer some questions. So let's insert the crunch and click refresh and see where we end up.
Tell me where you get to on, well, actually, you're talking about FanDuel, but what do you think about San Diego on the other side?
San Diego just came in at just north of the field, 15.8% aggregate. Top stack for me coming in 73 four-mans and 150 lineups, the Oakland A's.
Oh. Did you say 73?
73 four-mans. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to, play with that number a little bit, but
sure.
They are a top stack, that is for sure.
As I keep loading in ownership and projections as they get updated, I keep getting more Yankees, which I'm pretty pumped about. You're getting a pretty low-owned Yankees team. And then San Diego has been on the steady incline for me as I started crunching a few hours ago. So other teams that I'm getting to, like San Francisco, are you getting to any of them?
No. I am not.
This is a spot where it's just against the pitcher that is going to allow you to put the ball in play. They're cheap.
Right.
And
so I don't have, like, with FanDuel, there's no reason for me to get the Giants. Wait, who?
Because there's better teams.
Oh, yeah, wait. Alcantara is not getting any ownership, right?
No. There's no way.
I was thinking about it from, like, a leverage perspective for you.
Alcantara would be chalk if he was $1,500 cheaper on DK. Yeah. He's 8,100 if he was 66, 65. Anything on the Orioles or the Tigers?
I have a ton of Baltimore right now, and I'm about to get rid
of
it. Yeah, I'm taking that completely off the table.
Adam said that he was on Baltimore. Let's see.
I have a very small amount right now. 3%. Yeah. We're projecting 8 on FanDuel, so I'm good there.
I've got nothing besides VR. So I'm good on Baltimore. I don't think that this is a spot where it's necessary to play a bunch of Baltimore. Like I said, I got San Francisco in that range, though. So I'm not above playing poor teams. Where'd you get to on the Yankees and the Astros? And
yeah, so I'm going to be like 2.5 times the field on the Yankees and like 3 times the field on the Astros, maybe more.
I love it.
I'm making little tweaks right now.
Give me the Yankees in that park, the park with the best home run factor on the season.
Agreed.
I think that's pretty appealing. Low-owned Yankees, unavoidable at 4K.
Agreed.
Gleiber, 46.
Yeah. We've got them at 7% on FanDuel. I've got 17.7 right now. Similarly, Astros at 5, and I'm at 17.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it.
I'm happy there. I got a little bit more Tigers than I would really care to have, but
I think I got to a Tiger stack on Fantasy Draft. 2 Tiger stacks on Fantasy Draft. What is that? Let's see what these guys are looking like.
I'm gonna call it. Those are my lineups now.
My Tiger stacks on Fantasy Draft are Scherzer, Cole, and Syndergaard, Cole. So I think we're doing okay there.
Yeah, I think so too. Why in the world is that not adding up correctly?
How about here's a team that probably deserves at least a mention. Well, 2 teams actually, Cleveland and Minnesota.
So Minnesota, I'm neutral to the field right now, 7%. Cleveland, I also have 7% of. They are essentially unowned on FanDuel, only 2% in the aggregate. So I'm happy to be there.
2 good lineups that have good implied totals against pitchers you're not that worried about targeting against. And it's 78 degrees. Looks pretty humid and wind blowing out to right. To right against 2 righty pitchers. So it looks appealing on paper. Not quite getting to Minnesota Classic on DraftKings. I did get to some exposure over on Fantasy Draft. And then I got to Cleveland. They're tied for my 3rd high stone stack on Fantasy Draft. Yeah, I think it's a pretty quality spot for both sides, but not like the best spot. And that's why they're getting squeezed out. Spots I wish I had more exposure to in 150 lineups.
Yeah, I'm really happy with my exposures right now. I'm going to drop these into my upload template and get this stuff entered, and then we could take like a bunch of questions if we want.
Yeah, send us your questions. I'm about to upload mine as well because, man, this show is so much more chill, so much less scrambling when we get the lineups.
It feels nice, right?
Yeah, it feels great.
I'm happy. I'm happy to not be scrambling and not wanting to just like punch myself in the face when the show ends. Because that's like, pretty much how I always feel. For multiple reasons. Usually I just hate my lineups. I hate everything that happened for the past 15 minutes. I couldn't get them in time. Whereas now it's just like, okay, we're in. We've got 12 minutes until lock. So let's get some questions in. What else we got coming in here? Pinder for Hampson, DK. Oh, it's a cash lineup. Just take the highest value, guys.
Pinder or Hampson?
Yeah.
I just think Pinder's a better player than Hampson. So I'd probably take Pinder if it's really close.
Yeah.
I think you go with the projection. But if I was making projections, Pinder's the type of guy I'd rather have. Pinder versus a lefty, of course. So that one for me is just like Garrett Hampson just like makes me want to throw up in my mouth. So he'll probably dong. But yeah, he's really bad.
Here's a good question. Thoughts on Beatty on FanDuel for cash? I wouldn't want to go all the way down, although I think he's a very, very quality option, and I do have quite a bit of him today. I think that I would rather have probably Scherzer.
You need 60 points from that spot.
Yeah.
I think you want to put more stock in the less variant position especially on a site like FanDuel in cash. So you want to have that arm that if things go even okay for him, you're probably starting your lineup off with 50 because there's always value bats, especially on FanDuel. So that's like I would almost always pay up in cash on FanDuel.
Yeah, Scherzer, good point per dollar play. 10-4 I think is reasonable. He's getting ownership as well. I think that's probably the spot that I would end up at. If Tanaka were getting more ownership, I would have some interest. I don't think that Beatty is necessarily wrong, but he's probably my favorite point per dollar play on FanDuel, but it just doesn't feel correct.
Yeah. Why would you want to play Beatty? Just play like a good pitcher.
I mean, he's getting ownership. He's a good value. It opens up probably all of whatever you want from Coors plus Yankees plus whatever. Like you'll get, honestly, I would build the hitters first and find out how much money I had left over. If you can get even in sniffing distance of the 10-4 for Scherzer, then I'd make one or two concessions in the lineup and go to Scherzer.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Here's a specific question from Premium Slack. Do you like Marisnik for Houston tonight? Let's see.
I doubt it. I mean, I'm sure I have him, but it doesn't mean I like him.
I have more than the field of Marisnik probably because I'm over on Houston.
I have 12%.
Ooh, I have 8% on DK. Is he flat man on FanDuel?
2,300. Everybody on FanDuel for the Astros is 7% or below. I have 20 of Springer, Altuve, and Bregman.
Damn, that's
never
so
feels
appealing.
bad, right?
No, it doesn't. It's like, why not just play the Yankees and the Astros and just all these good teams all the time?
Yeah,
when they're not in Boston.
I'm gonna run a crunch right now of no stacks, just to see what I get from a cash perspective for people. We could talk about it a little bit. We haven't done that in a while.
Yeah, for sure.
More of a Yahoo strategy show. Sorry, Fantasy Draft. We'll do a Fantasy Draft specific show as well. If you're interested.
Let's do it.
Ooh, there we go. Guess who the highest owned guy I'm getting is on FanDuel right now while I crunch?
High pitcher or hitter?
Hitter. So I set everybody to 100% ownership, and I'm running 125% randomness, one unique, no stacks.
One unique. No stacks?
Correct.
Ooh. So it's either going to be just a nasty value guy or just the best hitter on the slate. It's got to be an outfielder, right?
Maybe.
It's got to be an outfielder. Let me scroll through it's Luriano.
Yep.
Yes, I knew it had to be an outfielder.
Yeah, Luriano, number one. All right, so I ran 400 lineups, essentially unencumbered. Sort by projected.
We just got ownership again.
Nice.
No, 20 minutes ago.
Oh, okay.
Never mind.
4-man Oakland stack in the optimal here. Olsen, Pinder, Laureano, Chris Davis, Greg Garcia, Josh Naylor, Hampson, Valleca, Garrett Cole.
Sounds pretty good to me, besides Hampson and Valleca.
Yeah, I'm going to sort by ownership, delete the bottom 200, and then see if that's still the same.
Yeah.
Let's see. Unselect lineups above. Delete.
You could just sort by ownership if you're making a cash lineup.
So I did, but I wanted to delete all of the lowest owned and then sort by my projections, just in case. So like, I want the highest combination of my projections along with ownership.
Right.
So I'm kind of trying to do two things at once. But yeah, it's looking like lots of Oakland, lots of San Diego, lots of Rockies are the way to do it. Should not have tried to delete 219. I should have just copied 200 into a different slate. That's way easier. Any weather concerns for you right now?
No, not ones that I'm accounting for. So I'm good on weather. I'm assuming every game is going late in the season. They usually have to cram them in anyways. So no real weather concerns for me. Looks like a late start, but with minimum patience. Yeah, Baltimore, Detroit. I'm not worried about that one. Someone was asking for a recap of the Dong picks. Josh took Nelson Cruz. I took Ramon Laureano. Spags took Marcana. Randone took Urshela. Emac took Matt Chapman. And then we foolishly told him that Chapman was not in the lineup. So he took Jose Abreu.
Yeah, Cole and Scherzer are the top two guys coming up in this unencumbered crunch. Beatty coming in third, but Cole is in all of the top projected lineups.
We just got a new ownership update. It's way different. Where's
Scherzer tumble?
Scherzer tumbled hella. Wow. He almost got cut in half. So I
saw that one coming from a mile away.
Yeah, I need to make that adjustment.
4 minutes to go, guys.
That's going to bring Cole down a little bit, but we're still at 73%, so we're still good there. Now my highest exposed hitter is not Laureano. It is Manuel Machado.
I said today I liked him more than Story and Arenado, and I had to argue with Adam a little bit for it.
Well, I mean, lefty and Coors, I think you're on, lefty and Coors, you can't play those guys.
Exactly.
We were once told.
Exactly. Not that I thought we're talking about three really good hitters here, but it does make me feel good that you got a lot of Machado. I'm running
Marner
that
signed, really?
What'd you say?
Hockey news in chat. This guy was holding out for the Leafs, and I guess he's signing. Is that correct?
Fantastic.
All right. Well,
19 days.
That is correct. 19 days. Can't wait. NHL's almost here, man.
I've got
you can
38 for NBA or something.
Yeah, so you can bank the first night of NHL and then not play for the rest of the season.
There's no way I'm playing NHL this year.
You're not even going to play one slate.
Not at all. Night? No, not at all.
Wow.
I can't do it, man.
You must not believe in my projections then. That's the only explanation. I mean, it's free money.
They've been fantastic for me in the past.
1 for 1.
Yeah. What did I finish? Second, I believe? Maybe third?
Yeah. I was like, this bastard did better than me with my own projections. But
I don't remember what it was. Let me see what I did finish. I think it was third.
You were definitely the top 5 of a FanDuel tournament.
It was fourth. It was fourth in the $4 on FanDuel. Fourth out of 40. You're out of 26,000.
It's pretty good.
I'll take it.
Shedlong or Arias?
Oh my god.
Just play Arias, I think.
What site?
Just play Arias. Arias is betting 6. Never mind. It's not just a slam dunk. I don't know.
I need to know which site. So either way.
All right. Putting in my last DK lineups here. Re-uploading because we got new ownership that changed quite a bit with my highest owned pitcher. So
NASCAR getting pitched in YouTube chat. 2 minutes to go, guys. So if you don't have your lineups in now, hustle. Actually, 1 minute to go. 1 minute to go.
Can't wait for basketball, Josh. Love the NBA strategy shows with you and Laffy.
I agree. They're fantastic shows.
Do those go shorter or longer than baseball shows with you guys?
Longer.
You guys you hit the 2 hour mark ever?
We hit more than 2 hours in the NBA pretty regularly.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. We went like 2:15 on one or two of them.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah. We've got our beats now dialed in a little bit more than we did during the NBA season, so I don't think that's going to happen any longer. We've learned how to streamline. Yeah. You do enough shows with someone after a while, you learn how to like trim the fat.
For sure.
I am so excited for this stupid clock to hit 7:05. 15 seconds, everybody. Get them in.
Yeah, you got some documentaries to be watching. We're not getting a lot of questions in chat. I'm sure people probably heard me jokingly talk about playing Story and Arenado in Coors and how you can't do that. I wonder if anybody has ever, like when we've made that joke before, if anybody's ever actually done it.
Oh, we had people ask earlier today again after making the joke. So we are locked. Here's the quick plugs for tomorrow. Got the MLB strategy show in the morning with Emac and Jake, followed up by the final NFL strategy show with Sal Vetri and Chris Randone coming in directly after that MLB show. And then 2 p.m. Eastern, on the contrary, Bossman and Spags back again. Tune in to that. Special guest. Has that been announced yet?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
You know who it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess we both know who it is. Yeah.
So tune into that. 3 shows tomorrow, 2 NFL. I will be in Slack in the morning dealing with soccer projections and MMA cheat sheets. So look for both of those if you're looking to play either one. Main event tomorrow in the UFC might be the most entertaining fight ever booked. So if you want to watch what should be really fun, go check out Donald Cerrone and Justin Gaethje tomorrow. And Liverpool plays at 7:30. So, allez. That's all I got. Jake, you ready to get out of here?
Yeah, man. I'll see you guys on the strategy show bright and early. Emac and myself will be starting her up at about 9:30, 9:45 Eastern, somewhere in that span. I think we got a big slate. There might be an early slate, and then there's, I think, an 11-game main slate. So we'll still have you covered on MLB tomorrow.
There we go, everybody. Best of luck. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Shout out to Fantasy Draft. Go to fantasydraft.com. Use the promo code AWESOMO to get $1,000 in rake-free entries in your first 7 days. We will talk to you later, guys. Good luck. Enjoy your weekend.